Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful Temple Terrace morning. Wish it could be a little sunnier, but it is a beautiful morning to be out here for the celebration of the opening of our second ADA accessible field for the Buddy Baseball League. This is a tremendous accomplishment, and it couldn't have happened without the efforts of so many different people who were so instrumental in getting this field built. Russ Oberbruckling and the passion and the dedication that he has for this program and for this league. Dennis Mueller with a league of their own. These two gentlemen put so much time and so much effort into these programs, and the outcome is so special. And it's so heartwarming. And for those of you, I'm sure everybody here has come out and seen one of these games, but it is really special. And it is really a great thing to come out and watch. None of this is possible without the help of so many people who truly believe in this program. When the first field was built, it was built with appropriation from the Florida State Legislature and matching monies from Hillsborough County. The second field was built with funds from City of Temple Terrace and a great deal of additional funding from Hillsborough County. The two gentlemen to my left truly believe in what we do out here. The mayor of Temple Terrace, Andy Ross, and Hillsborough County Commissioner Kenneth Hagan truly believe in what we do out here and are willing to put the monies and the funding in place to do this. Commissioner Hagan has been a true champion to this program and has been instrumental in securing the funding that we've been able to get from the county in order to make these things happen. And that is why his name is on this field. And I'm truly honored to be with these two gentlemen here today. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to turn it over to our mayor, Andy Ross, for a few comments.
Well, thank you, Carl, and good morning to everybody. It's great to see you. Thanks for coming out on a chilly morning. And so I'm really excited about the addition of this field, and I'm really very excited that Buddy Baseball calls Temple Terrace home, and we are thrilled to have this organization in our city. I want to give a big shout out to County Commissioner Ken Hagan. This field would not be here. That field probably would not be here either if it were not for the efforts of Commissioner Hagan. So let's give Ken a big round of applause. So I just wanted to comment to you guys. You know, we live in a very special place, and obviously I'm referring to Temple Terrace. It's a really unique city, but this region is very special. And if you've never lived anywhere else, you don't realize really how special this is. We're standing on property that's owned by the school board. And this is a collaborative effort between the city, as Carl mentioned, the city, the county commission, and the school district for letting us be here, for having us here, and the private organization. So all these people work together really kind of seamlessly to make stuff like this happen. And this doesn't happen everywhere, folks. This really doesn't happen. A lot of times you can't get one government to do anything, much less get so really, this is a very special and unique place. I'm proud to be your mayor. I'm happy to host this here, and we are thrilled to have this in our community. Thank you. And now I'll give you to Commissioner Ken Hagan.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And one thing I'll say about what the mayor just stated is I've been in office a long time, and he's dead on that the spirit of cooperation and collaboration has never been stronger between all the governments here in Tampa Bay. So we are very fortunate in that regard. But I'm going to keep my remarks very brief because I know we're on a time crunch. But I want you to know that I am profoundly honored to be associated with Buddy Baseball. About 6 or 7 years ago, a good friend of mine, Lewis Betts, said that I should check out Buddy Baseball. He said, it's in your district. Being a Parks and Rec and youth sports guy, he said, I think you'll like it. You should check it out. So a couple of weekends later, I popped in unannounced, and I was incredibly moved. I was blown away by the joy and excitement of the athletes, of the buddies, and really everyone involved. The family, the fans. It wasn't a game. It was an event and an experience. And so that year, I secured funding to help support the Dave Wills Field. And then a couple years later, I learned of the goal of a second field, and I wanted to do everything that I could to make it a reality. So thank you, Mayor Ross. Thank you, City Manager Carlos Baella, and Carl, thank you for this incredible honor. And thank each and every one of you for supporting Buddy Baseball. You have a lifelong supporter here. And if I can ever do anything to help support Buddy Baseball and to help grow Buddy Baseball so more kids can have an opportunity to play ball and have fun, I'm all in. So thank you very much, and wait till you come out on this field. It's extremely nice.
Thank you, Ken. He did very well. That was very good. Everything he said right there. I want to thank you a little bit for, I need some notes. I'm not as good as these folks here, but let me try this. I want to thank you all for being here today. It's a very special moment for Buddy Baseball. We're incredibly grateful to the city of Temple Terrace in Hillsborough County for funding this beautiful new synthetic turf field. You know, their continued support means more to our players and our families than they would ever know. And a special thank you to Carl Langfeld for his hard work and his leadership on this project. In fact, it was Carl's idea to build the very first field 6 years ago, and we're standing on the next chapter of his vision. As the league continues to grow, this new field allows all of our players, especially those with mobility challenges, to play safely and confidently on one of these two beautiful fields without scheduling conflicts. That was the biggest problem. People were going from here to there, but now we won't have any problems. All the kids with wheelchairs or walkers can play on any turf field. It's a big game changer for us. I can't believe it. We are beginning our 18th year of Buddy Baseball. We are so 18. I was 22 when I first started. We're so grateful for the city's partnership and support, and we look forward to another great season with all the fun, friendship, and camaraderie that'll bring. Thank you all for coming. One more thing. Play ball!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody? I hope you had a great holiday and a happy new year. Welcome to 2026. In my mind, I can't fathom that it's 2026. I'm still thinking it's like 2005. I don't know, but and my wife says in my life it is still 2005. So welcome to the January 6th meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. It's nice to see everybody. I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices, and if you would, please stand and join me in the invocation and the pledge. Lord, as we enter into the new year, we thank you for your many blessings during 2025. We ask for your continued blessings and guidance as we continue our work in 2026. We pray especially for the people in Venezuela and their family members living here in our country. Grant them peace, freedom, and stability. We pray also for those in our city who are sick or suffering. May they feel the comfort of your grace and the support of our community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, as many of you know from previous meetings, we usually begin our meetings here in Temple Terrace with an interesting or fun fact concerning the city of Temple Terrace or the region that we live in. And that duty rotates, and tonight it falls, if I'm not mistaken, on Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So welcome, everyone. I know that some of you may be new to the city of Temple Terrace, and some of you may have been here a long time. We moved here in 1972, which I thought wasn't that long ago by the mayor's math, but it is a while. But we started highlighting the historic fact to show interesting and historic things about the city for people old and new to learn about the features of Temple Terrace that through the years, especially we've been celebrating the centennial, to learn about how this city was formed, interesting things about our past. And some people might say, well, why are we talking about the past? I only care about going forward to the future. But my hope is that by presenting some of this information about the city's past, that we can appreciate how the city originated and grew into the place that we call home today. So nothing stays static, including our city, and Temple Terrace has been changing and adapting for 100 years. It's really evident in our recreation and community events. So in 1972, our recreation facilities were Lightfoot, Woodmont Clubhouse, and Club Morocco. And the land that's around the actual family complex that we all know about today was the city's landfill. So this is an example of how nothing stays the same. So now Lightfoot is the recreation center where we host all of our senior events. Club Morocco has been torn down, and is part of the Florida College complex. And the family complex now exists outside of the landfill, and we have tons of sports and dance and gymnastics and workout facilities there that have come into being based on what the community needed. So where we were originally created as a hunting, fishing, and golf community, we now offer many, many opportunities to get outside with parks, playgrounds, boat ramps, volunteer organizations, numerous community events. And what started as a vacation spot to enjoy a mild winter has grown into a vibrant city filled with clubs and events to connect us as a community. Each year, the Rec Center hosts many events. They were very busy this year, but some of you may be familiar with the Fall Festival, the Winter Wonderland, and our own golf cart parade, and our Touch-a-Truck event, and Temple Terrace Reads, and of course, the 4th of July celebration. But many volunteer organizations also offer a lot of community events to help us stay connected, like the Tour of Homes that we had in December, the Arts and Crafts Festival, which I think is 42 years?
52.
52 years, sorry. And Brewfest, the Fire Department Open House, the National Night Out, and Selfies with Santa, just to name a few of the events in the community. And anybody who wants to know what's going on, the Rec Center puts together the playbook. And this highlights a lot of the recreation activities that have grown into being to answer the community's need for playing, exercising, sports, and as evident of how over time this community has changed and adapted to what the residents are requesting. So I encourage our residents, old and new, to attend events. If you don't know about an event, join the city's Facebook page, connect with your rec center. They always have events posted there. Walk in and get the paperwork. Connect with the city website. We have an interactive calendar. So if it's a city event, it should be posted on our calendar. The Chamber of Commerce will help advertise a lot of the community events, or join a volunteer organization and get involved at the grassroots. So one other way that you can get really involved in the city and help chart the future is to join a board that serves the city in an advisory capacity. So just get out and connect with the community and the community members. So as we move into the next 100 years, I hope that we all take time to reflect on what made this city great in the past and embrace the ways that we continue to be an amazing city for living, working, and playing as we move into the future. And I do want to encourage you all to voice your concerns or your ideas and let us know what we could do. What do you love about Temple Terrace, and what do you think that we could do better? Because we started from one place, and throughout the time we've continued to grow and change to meet the needs of the community and remain a wonderful place to live. So that's my fact.
Thank you. That was good. Very timely, too, the beginning of the new year. We have a lot of events to attend. So thank you very much. So tonight we have our friends from the Transportation Planning Organization here to present a Temple Terrace Multimodal Trail Network Plan, which I have seen at the TPO, but a lot of people have not. And so Connor McGregor and Alvaro, I'm still learning the right way to, I know, I say this in English and I know it doesn't come out right, but thank you guys for being here tonight. And so I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Connor Trejos MacDonald. I am a staff at the Transportation Planning Organization, so the TPO. And the TPO is a federally required agency for urbanized areas. So really what we're tasked with is doing long-range planning and programming. We have a board, which we're lucky that Mayor Ross serves as our chair. And part of that long-range planning, we have funds to conduct studies and plans for our local agencies and jurisdictions. And we often hire consultants to do this. because they have a different level of specialization or a higher level of expertise in these areas. So with that, we have a study on Temple Terrace Multimodal Network Study, which we've hired Banesh for, and Alvaro Gabaldon is here to present.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Happy New Year. Are the slides? Oh, okay, great. Am I in control of it? Okay, thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. As Connor said, this study is looking at multimodal connections within the city's limits. Its vision is to create a network. If you were to connect these areas of opportunity, you could, create a cohesive circuit around the city, one that could be used by different modes of transportation, pedestrians and bicyclists, and et cetera.
Turn it on the side.
Oh, okay. All right. So, like we said, we went over the TPO's role in this study. I'll go over the project goals and objectives, the stages of the project since this project kicked off last year. Do a review of the public engagement that we've done thus far, and take a look at the trail connections and a map of the route that we've put together. Connor mentioned that the TPO receives federal transportation planning dollars, and it conducts studies such as this for the local jurisdictions. With that process comes the studies movement through the TPO's committees and ultimately to the TPO board. So we get to benefit from the feedback from the TPO's committees such as Livable Roadways, Technical Advisory Committee, and the TPO BPAC. So we get a county-wide perspective on the study as well. Ultimately, this study will go to the TPO board for adoption. I mentioned project stages. So thus far, we have reviewed existing plans within the study's limits. We've done a review of existing conditions within the city limits. We've done a public survey and some public engagement activities to collect feedback and public opinion on the ideas that we've come up with. Namely, we went to the Firehouse Open House in October, where we had a table and we had an interactive map activity. And the public was able to vote on several options and alignments of this trail network. So where I get to the part where we're not checked, I guess, is we're currently working on cost and feasibility analysis. So that's a planning level cost analysis of what it would take to take one of these trail opportunities and physicalize it. So in the plan, if it says a separated bike lane would be really great on this portion of road, the cost and feasibility analysis will provide some planning level cost numbers as to what it would take to actually build it in the way that we're proposing. And then, of course, we go through the TPO committee and board process. So our study's goal was to identify connections and opportunities for a multimodal trail that connects the city's key points and highlight its character and charm. To diffuse some jargon, multimodal is just referring to transportation modes, so a trail that could accommodate multiple modes of transportation, so walking and biking and that sort of thing. So to accomplish this goal, our objectives were to identify opportunities, places that we could promote safe, efficient, and accessible transportation options that would multiply, have a ripple effect, I guess. So there's probably intersections in this city, in the community, that have a lot of traffic, a lot of desire paths, that sort of thing. So looking at the city from that point of view, how can we practically enhance things and cause a ripple effect? If we make this one intersection better, maybe we can get to the rec center better, the library is suddenly connected, suddenly people want to walk around and feel safer. So I kind of mentioned that in the next bullet. And then, of course, engaging the public and stakeholders with our ideas to get feedback and integrate that into the ideas that we're coming up with when we as planners look at the city. So just to go over some public engagement, we conducted a survey from May 1st to June 30th in 2025. We received over 100 responses to that survey. The majority of respondents said a lack of safe routes was a primary factor preventing them from walking or biking more within the city. We also conducted a stakeholder workshop where we had staff from Hillsborough TPO, City of Temple Terrace, HART, Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning, the Temple Terrace BPAC, Florida College, and then, of course, myself and some of my colleagues from Benesh, where we discussed, I would say, more technical aspects of this idea, specifically speaking to Hillsborough CIP about how we could connect to the bypass canal, speaking to HART about their ridership, their most popular bus stops. You know, as I said, creating that multiplier effect. If you make it safe to walk to a bus stop, suddenly you have just a network, right? That's really the whole concept behind this. So, and then we held a public workshop, we'll call it, at the Fire Department Open House on October 11th. So I'm calling it a public workshop in that we engaged the public. We provided them with options they could vote for. We had a full-size map of our route. We took down comments, and ultimately people voted for different paths through an area. So we really got to know a lot about those hot spots that I'm mentioning. So yeah, that's the public engagement thus far. So we've wrapped that up. We're really into a stakeholder feedback process right now. So we'll be going to TPO committees within the next couple of weeks here. So I mentioned the voting exercise. So you see the board on the right with stickers. You know, wouldn't it be a planning exercise if we didn't ask people to put stickers on a board? So we asked people to choose between two different ways of traversing an area in the city. So the defining characteristic of a lot of these areas is there's a park, there's a school, there's a grocery store, there's a neighborhood road. So you have a lot of these natural, I would say, I guess, like attractors to bicycle or pedestrian activity, but they, you know, how would you like to walk or bike between these 2 points? So that's really what we're asking people to vote for on that board there. And then Connor was with me that day, you know, just providing some general info and speaking with everybody who attended the event that day. So to go from public engagement and create a more technical cut of the information that we collected from the residents, we prioritized the segments along the route. So this is an example of a larger map, but basically, I don't know if you can see, the different colored segments are numbered. So each of those segments are scored and graded based on criteria. I provided a portion of the criteria we use to grade these segments. So you can see posted speed limit, existing infrastructure, public engagement, support, and transit. So each segment got scores in these categories. And we did this to just provide a sequential order of these segments to see what would rise to the top. So, you know, if there's a segment that has an existing bike lane, it's near a park, it has a bus stop, lots of people talk to us about it, it'll be at the top of this list. So prioritizing the segments in terms of, I would say, like an opportunity to create that multiplier effect. You take advantage of the existing land use, existing uses, and existing infrastructure to I would say, enhance a piece of this network that you know would be greater than the sum of its parts. This is the route as a whole. So you can see that we have connected about 13 of the city's parks along this route. We've also prioritized staying off of major roads. When you look at the city and its city limits and you ask the question, how do I better connect this area? You're immediately, you know, sort of challenged with the river and with the arterial roads that go east-west and 56th Street going north and south. It sort of boxes you in. But a great benefit of this city is, you know, the local neighborhood, the quiet tree canopy roads that you have. So you can see that a major portion of this proposed route is utilizing an existing bike lane that's following the river to the east and the golf course. So there is an existing on-road bike lane, not a shared use lane, a painted bike lane there. And it's a primary spine. Also on this route are some more visionary areas that we've studied and proposed to be in this circuit. So you can see there's sort of like we're like cutting the corner of 113th and River Hills. There's an alleyway that is behind houses and touches the recreational field that is publicly owned. It's an easement. So that's more of a pie in the sky vision of this segment of the trail, but that could represent an opportunity for creating a truly separated, truly safe portion of this route versus a portion where you're more in like mixed traffic or you're utilizing a less hardened infrastructure for your multimodal traffic. So all that to say is that this route encompasses very practical parts of the city that have existing infrastructure, and then it also provides visionary options for traversing areas that don't have any infrastructure at all. And so I've since solidified some more committee dates. There's a handout that I've provided for the TPO. But for the project side of things, our next step is, like I said, to finalize feasibility analysis and the planning cost estimates. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of those highest scoring segments and we're going to develop the cost estimates and feasibility analysis for those segments. So that'll just be like a base level average of how much money per mile would it cost to develop something along this route. And feasibility will take into account things like drainage, utility conflicts, that sort of thing. So there may be some segments that we find are very difficult, and so then that may change that prioritization list that we have. So we're coming here to you with a status update and with a description of these processes. We'll be finalizing the plan after we do these analyses by February or so, and we'll be coming back to you all on March 3rd, I think, if we get approved for your agenda. But that concludes my overview of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before I open it up for council questions, I wanted to add to this a little bit because we in Temple Terrace also have a pedestrian bicycle advisory committee. We have at least one member, Mr. Buffington is here tonight. And they, what was it, 2 years ago, I guess now, were asked to formulate kind of a sketch of Temple Terrace and where these bike and pedestrian preferred routes would go. They came up with a really terrific product. This is a citizen volunteer board that we established. And so that's kind of the starting template for this. And so we'll look at the results of this and lay over the initial and see what makes sense and what's cost feasible and what we can do. But we're trying to make sure that we create networks that align with safe crossings for the major Fowler Avenue, Bullard, 56th. You don't want to bring a trail out where there's no signalized crossing or something. You want to make sure people have a safe way to cross. So thank you. Board, council members, any questions? Councilmember Fernandez.
The first is a question for staff, and that has to do with the area of the map where the potential would be to come into the utility easement across from Whiteway across to 113. And I thought that we've actually sold that property to the individual property owners that back up onto that space. Okay. So I didn't know if that's actually really available.
Okay. No,
but I mean, there might still be a corridor. I just didn't know.
I guess just practically, I was looking at the property appraiser's website to look at that land. So that's the most updated information. Then I can take that into account. We also have dashed lines on this map. I'm sorry, I know it's not in front of you, but it provides alternatives to these visionary sort of like areas that don't have any infrastructure going through them already. But I appreciate you providing more context to that piece of land.
I just want to make sure, I'm not saying that there is no corridor. Sure. I just know that I thought that people bought it. So my other questions are for you, and that would be, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of connectivity across Fowler.
Yeah.
So is there any way to make some suggestions, even though it might be, forever down the road, but some sort of plan of what could be viable to connect the other side of Fowler so that people can get back and forth more easily?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the plan, there are segments that are not on this red line. Sorry, I know it's not in front of you again, but but they are also analyzed, and they're also sort of presented in like a SWOT analysis manner. So the whole northwest quadrant of the city, you could say, is sort of sequestered by Fowler and 56. So, you know, I know that FDOT has some Fowler studies going on where they're going to put mid-block crossings on Fowler. So it'd really behoove this study to acknowledge that and then to provide analysis of segments that we are looking at in that quadrant that sort of connect out to USF and that sort of thing. All that to say is I think you're reliant on FDOT to cross Fowler. But they are studying and putting mid-block crossings on Fowler. So, and our study does acknowledge that and provides analysis of segments that are up in that part of the city. This red route is sort of symbolic, I think, of the study itself. If I didn't have this red route, I would sort of be giving you a list of roads and numbers, and this red route is sort of just a way of cohesively collecting them and saying, like, you know, you could hit 13 parks with this route. You know, this route touches all your schools, that sort of thing. But if you want to look at the study from a more specific point of view, you will be able to, because you can look at every single segment with every single score and, you know, our analysis of that. So.
Okay, and then my last question is that as part of this analysis of connecting or making Temple Terrace multimodal,
Sure.
will this also be designed to connect into existing or other areas so that it'll be you're crossing here and then now you're on another path?
Yeah. So an aspect of the red route, I would say, is that it is prioritizing existing infrastructure. So segments all the segments get a score for existing infrastructure, but along the red route, this existing infrastructure is scored higher, you know, because it represents a opportunity to create a circuit around the city. So yes, existing infrastructure is scored higher in our list of segments, and it's presented as a segment that you should look into more because it has existing things.
I'm actually thinking more about what is outside the city that might be paths that are maybe
like
a safe,
bypass
like maybe
canal
maybe a safe path to USF when they get their stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we've got our pathways within the city, but then are we including those outside so that we match up?
Yes, yeah. So like we're also scoring that. So those segments that I was talking about in the Northwest, they are looking towards USF and they're receiving a higher score, you know, so like versus a segment maybe that, you know, like 113th that's connecting, I don't know, the rec center to 56 will have a 0 in that field because it's not connecting regionally, right? So that's not a bad thing. It's just, you know, that's an example of one having a score for the case that you're presenting and one having a score where it doesn't connect out to, you know, outside of the city. So the parts that touch the bypass that represent opportunities to connect to City of Tampa trail projects, that sort of thing, will have a score that rises them in the list, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so if I can chime in on that a little bit, because some of that conversation exceeds the scope of this particular study, but for several years we've been in conversations with DOT about connecting to the west to USF and then to 40th Street to be able to connect to Tampa's proposed trail to go south on 40th Street, and then to the east at the bypass canal there's a proposed trail that will parallel the bypass canal that will take you north or south. And so that is the goal. DOT originally pledged a 12-foot paved trail down the north side of Fowler. That has since changed because, as we discovered ourselves last year, all the utilities run down the north side of Fowler Avenue, and there's not enough room to put it without conflicting with the gas transmission line and all the other stuff. And so they unfortunately had to scrap the 12-foot paved trail in lieu of they're looking how wide they can redo the sidewalk that would make it wider, and it's really not practical to go to the south side because that's where most of the drainage is, and it would cost a fortune to build that up and accommodate the stormwater. So there's discussions going on that really transcend the scope of this, but to connect with the other network, yeah. So, other questions, Councilmember Kravitz?
Happy New Year, and thanks for that great presentation. I appreciate it. I have only one small question, which is, I was kind of missing the convergence of some of these routes on downtown, which is in the central focus of the Temple Terrace pedestrian master plan, which I worked on along with the committee. And I'd like to just say Brent Buffington is in the audience today, and he's the chair of that committee, and he does a really great job. If we wanted to bring more people downtown, how would you propose doing that in the framework of your advice to us?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm hiding behind my perfect scoring system, but we do have land use considerations in the matrix that we've created. So the segments that do touch 56, which I would assume is downtown, are scored for doing so versus segments that aren't. But you know, like I was saying about that multiplier effect, I think really, hopefully, the outcome of creating a sequential list with these considerations is that you can find high impact segments to improve. And so I really think that there are probably certain mid-block crossings, certain sidewalks that are maybe unlit or disconnected or broken that are really preventing just, you know, low-hanging fruit of pedestrian and bicycle activity. I mean, but if you're looking like more of a specific area, like I should sort of look at the map and circle it and say this is downtown and connect that, or you know, that's something we can do. It's something we have the land use data that, you know, we're treating 56, the downtown CRA, as an area that we've scored higher. But you know, I think something that sticks out in my head is the mid-block, like the crossing for the pond that you all are studying about improving, and Enigma Plaza in that area. I really think that it's pretty disconnected right now, but you have these two synergistic, you know, like uses. People are at the park, people can sort of walk up by your improved pond and access retail. You know, I think that is one of those multipliers where really that's one segment in this study, but it touches so many other things that you have going on in the city. So, you know, hopefully we're presenting you that list of segments and honing in on that high impact, you know, improvement.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm really grateful for this exchange because you've brought up a lot of really excellent points. And one of them that really stands out to me is the access to Enigma Plaza that you just pointed out is currently blocked by a wall. And so even if people wanted to access Enigma Plaza from that space that you were just discussing, they wouldn't be able to. They'd have to circumvent the wall by going up all the way. So I find that to be a little bit poorly planned. And to your other point, were you, I apologize for the ignorance of this question, I'm not involved in the day-to-day execution of any of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're legislators up here, but were you provided with a copy of the Temple Terrace Pedestrian Master Plan before you began your work?
I procured one. Yeah, I was, you know, when we did our existing plan review, that was one of the studies we looked at, yes.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. So, yeah, so if we wanted to understand the input that we've gotten from you in terms of the scoring, is it correct that I understand that you've scored routes that you think would be the best value to improve?
Yeah, I would say high impact.
Right.
I'm just sort of, you know, shrugging away from value because I wouldn't, you know, there was not like a fiscal analysis of this. It was like a planning impact, like connecting uses and safety and existing infrastructure there was scored higher. You could interpret that as providing a lot of value.
I understand. Yeah. Thank you. So when we're looking at that, you're saying this is a good place to invest your money. You're not making recommendations about what we should do. That's up to us, right?
We are. So this study is sort of like a first step. So we're providing examples of other places and other trails and other segments that have been improved in the way that we think is good. So, but we're not sort of designing the trail, right? This study, I think the deepest this study gets is providing that list, that prioritized list, and allowing you to hone in on those high impact areas, and a base level planning level cost analysis.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for those answers. I really appreciate it. That's all I have. I yield.
Further questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Okay, council members, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from our previous meeting? And if they are acceptable, is there a motion?
Excuse me, I have one correction to the minutes that I'd like to propose.
Councilmember Kravitz.
I'll pass it around. There you go. Off it goes. So, I made two substantive points in the previous meeting, and unfortunately I noticed that neither of them were in the minutes, so I just have a correction here that I'd like to circulate. I think there's one extra one. I'll share this with our city clerk in a moment. So basically, the point that I made about Rule 18D got a bit lost. I was just making a point there about the fact that the form requirement is not in the city council's procedural rules for being able to speak and make your comments in public. And then the other correction to the minutes that I have here under the Second Amendment is that the point about separation of powers got a bit lost there. So those are the changes that I'd like to propose, and I'm happy to make a motion to read them out. So the first one would be, and I'll make the motion as one for both points. So I'll motion to approve by unanimous consent a change to the City Council minutes from December 16th, 2025. The first change is to the point after Councilmember Kravitz stated and read Rule 18D, would then subsequently read after it, of the Council Rules of Order and Procedure, requires only that members of the public be recognized by the presiding officer before addressing council, and contains no requirement that speakers complete a written request form. He observed that while the form has been used as a matter of informal custom, this practice is not grounded in the adopted rules, and the underlying concern is whether audience members are afforded adequate opportunity to signal their desire to speak before the public comment period closes. And the second change being after the text in the minutes that reads, Councilmember Kravitz stated that he would vote no because this has no separation of powers, and he does not think that the council should give up power if they are not required to. It would read, Councilmember Kravitz noted that while Florida Statute Section 177.071 mandates administrative approval of final plats, the staff report acknowledged that no statutory changes were required for preliminary plat review under Section 12-354. He expressed concern that by voluntarily extending the delegation of preliminary plat appeal authority to the city manager, the council was surrendering oversight beyond what state law required, and that this eliminated a meaningful separation between the administrative function of reviewing plats and the appellate function of reviewing disputed decisions. That is what would capture the comments that I made on that day. So I would love a second, and then it can pass by unanimous consent, and we can move on.
Second.
The unanimous consent issue is a little. Thank you. The only concern I have is the unanimous consent. If nobody objects, it goes forward. Everybody's required to vote on this, and I think using this unanimous consent is problematic. I think we should just follow the standard, make a motion if there's a second, and then they vote. None of
Motions
this
for unanimous consent are in Robert's Rules of Order, Mr. City Attorney.
But we have rules under Florida statutes that require every board member to vote on a topic or on an item. So I don't think Robert's Rules is going to apply here. I think it's important that everybody votes either yay or nay, not this silent vote through the unanimous consent.
Seems like we need to change our statutes then, but I think that motions for unanimous consent are generally regarded as completely unproblematic, both municipally and on the state level.
Just issuing my concern that by doing anything by this unanimous consent could be problematic with without the fact that people might not be actively voting on an issue.
I can ask one more question of the city attorney. Are you aware of any jurisdiction in Florida that does not use motions for unanimous consent?
I am not familiar, and I've been at 3 jurisdictions to where they've used that. Everyone has used motion, second, vote.
I'm happy to convert my motion to one for approval then.
Second.
Comments, discussion?
I have a question,
Vice Mayor?
Ms. Sater. These are in quotation marks. Has this been verified against what was actually stated?
No, sir.
It does not.
This is my first acknowledgement of this, so I cannot state one way or the other.
This is in addition to what's in the minutes from that day. The only thing,
My concern is this, you got this in quotation marks, you're quoting, this is what you said. Did you listen to the tape of what was actually done verbatim, or is this what you wanted to say?
the minutes are not a verbatim transcript.
I understand, and then, I understand what you're saying, but I don't want to put stuff in the minutes that may not have necessarily been said.
I made those points on that day.
But did
That's-
you say these, you got these in quotation marks, that this is going in there, then you said it or not said it?
The quotation marks are to indicate the text that's supposed to be inserted, not that the text being inserted is in the quotation marks, because obviously I wouldn't refer to myself in the third person, right?
I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't.
I don't know. I can't say.
No, I did not say Councilmember Kravitz said, and refer to myself in the past tense. No, I didn't do that. The quotation marks are for ease of reference here, so that the first quotation mark is a quotation from the minutes from that day, and the second quotation mark simply captures the text that I would like to amend into the minutes. So I'm happy to make the motion without the quotation marks, although I don't really know if that's required. I think it's a verbal motion, so this is just for your reference, since there was criticism last time that I didn't provide enough background information, so here we have it. That's all.
Other comments or discussion? I would like an opportunity before we vote to make these amendments to review this. So it was just handed to us, and I'm trying to run a meeting and read this, and I'd like to be able to compare this to the video of the meeting to see. I'm assuming that this is an accurate reflection, but I'd like an opportunity to review the minutes that our clerk wrote versus these minutes, so I can more intelligently vote on this. And I don't see any reason why we couldn't adopt these minutes at our next meeting when we approve the minutes from this meeting, and give us all an opportunity to look at the text of this and look at the video and see how that compares.
I agree. That was the basis of my question.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to the amendment. It may be fine. I'd just like a chance to review that.
Yeah, great. Just a brief comment on that. All of us were there in that meeting. I understand. That's totally fine. I clearly remember making those points. But I have no problem postponing it until the next meeting. It's totally fine.
Well, we still have a live motion.
I accept the postponement as well.
Okay. So are we going to withdraw then the motion to approve the minutes?
That would be up to you. So we still have a motion on the floor. So- Well, there is. unless-
I'll withdraw my motion to amend the minutes, but I don't want to vote on approving the minutes because my vote is going to
That's
be a
fair.
no then.
No,
So
yeah, that's what I'm
I'll
suggesting.
withdraw my motion to amend the minutes, and then I'll make a motion to table the discussion about the minutes until a date certain, which would be the next city council meeting. And I can pull that date in a second. That would be, so it would be the 20th of January. So I'll make that motion then.
Second.
Any discussion of that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No nays? We will revisit this at our next meeting. Okay, public comment. Persons wishing to be heard on items on the consent agenda or on items not on the agenda. There are request forms to address the mayor and council on the table in the back of the room. Please complete the form and give them to the city clerk on my left. Council has a 30-minute time limit for this portion of the meeting so that we can move on with other business. If it's necessary to hear further public comment, we do that at the end of the meeting. So it's not like you don't get a chance to talk. It's just that we have to put a cap on the time here. I don't think that's going to be an issue tonight. It doesn't look like. There's a 3-minute time limit imposed on all comments from the public. We ask that speakers come to the podium and state their name and city of residence. During public comment on items not on the agenda, or items on the consent agenda, the city manager and directors in attendance do make note of these issues. I'd like to assure all residents that all of your comments are taken seriously and will be followed up on. So during this portion of the meeting, I currently have one request to speak from Mr. Loeb. Mr. Loeb, you're recognized, sir. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Everybody. My name is Charles Loeb. I live in Terrace Park, and I have a couple of topics tonight. Number one, I want to congratulate or give condolences to the Vice Mayor for being elected Hart Board Chair. I think it'd be remiss not to compliment Councilman Vieira for the job he did over the 3 years, and I hope that he can move forward. For the record, at Hart, there was $32 million put into buses and another $42 million put into the fixing of the trying to think what it is, over the center where, you know, they're working on the buses and all that. So in other words, they got $74 million. So in other words, Hart looks like it's going to stay around. The other thing I want to talk about tonight is stereotyping. I really can't stand it. I saw this article in this paper. It's still bothering me since I've seen it, from December 24th. It has to do with people depicting Muslims or anyone else by stereotyping. Stereotyping leads to prejudice. Prejudice leads to fear. Fear leads to hate. Hate leads to violence, such as 5 years ago today, in case anybody forgot, over the Capitol. It doesn't have to be just religious. And hate leads to war. If people want peace, it begins by downsizing the stereotyping of other people here. Next month, there's a nice Muslim young lady over here. And next month, I'm sure you will once again be inviting the people from the mosque over for Ramadan, which I believe is February 18th. And I do not think, within this community, I have known some very, very nice Muslim people. And I hate the idea of them being stereotyped, or anyone else being stereotyped. As Dr. King said, that people should be judged by their character, not by their color or by their faith or anything else. And that, anyway, I just hope things get along. We should be able to get along. Hopefully we can start even being a role model within this community for people, for peace in the whole world, not just here in the community. Why? Because we're all part of the same community. That's why we should feel like we owe everyone else, and to give everyone the respect they deserve without making judgments simply because of a label on them or how their faith is in our Creator. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Loeb. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council at this time? Okay, seeing none. Council, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Consent agenda is adopted. Next item is a resolution approving the installation of a speed hump on North 62nd Street. Our Public Works Director, Jason Warrenfeld, is here to present. Good evening, Mr. Warrenfeld.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. City Public Works Department is bringing forward a resolution requesting approval to install a traffic calming speed hump on 62nd Street between Fowler and East 113th Avenue. The engineering department received a petition from a resident to evaluate 62nd Street for speed hump viability. In response, staff worked with the Temple Terrace Police Department to collect vehicle speed data, followed by a review of historical data, average daily street volumes, roadway classification, street geometry, including street dimensions and all side streets. The determination to install a speed hump was based on those factors, along with the speed of vehicles in the 85th percentile was at an average of 41.9 miles per hour in the posted 25-mile-an-hour street, confirming the potential safety risk for pedestrians, bicyclists, and the other neighborhood traffic. This slide here is a aerial view looking from east to west of 62nd Street between 113th and Fowler Avenue. This slide is a markup of where the proposed speed hump installation, along with appropriate signage and street indicators, will be located. This street has a mixed use, including commercial, which is closer to the north side, the Fowler end. Then it proceeds as residential, with the south end of 62nd Street having a city park. The recommendation for one speed hump is based off of the engineering standards for roadway, required roadway signage and placement along with which includes not placing the speed hump near driveways or other roadway access points. The approval of this resolution will allow staff to move forward with the installation. Once completed, we will expect to see slower speeds, improved safety, and an overall enhancement for the area. Staff respectfully request council approve the resolution, and I stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Warrenfeld. I do have some members of the public who wish to speak on this. First request is Dr. Stephanie Arthur. Good evening, Doctor.
Mr. Warrenfeld, thank you for all of your hard work and for recognizing the request of our entire neighborhood. I'm so personally grateful to the work that you and Mr. Everett have done. So Happy New Year. Thank you for, and I'm not going to use all the 3 minutes. Positionality, I moved to Temple Terrace almost 2 years ago. I've long had Temple Terrace envy, living in South Tampa for almost 30 years, and finally made the move. 30 years in education, and I have been a professor at University of South Florida, College of Education, working there since 2017. Children are my passion. And what drove this passion when I really don't have time to take up another project is living next to the playground, Lynn Arbor Playground. And it is a park, but it is also a playground with children and bicycles and pedestrians and scooters. I love the multimodal plans. May I suggest the 62nd North Corridor to extend that? Okay. My concern is, and I don't want to sound ungrateful, we did request speed bumps, humps, tables, not sure what they're called. We were a bit disappointed that there, and I understand policy and distance and so forth, that only one was approved. And the location, I don't know if you have the ability to pull up that map, the location is closer to Fowler. The problem is the traffic, the vehicles that are coming from 113th. Rounding the corner, often not seeing that there is a crosswalk, there are children playing, there is no parking lot at the playground, there is no street signage for the playground on either direction. And parents will park their car, and I'm a mom, my 3 are grown and flown, they made it, but I see all the time parents out, and as we do, if you have more than one, they're like cats. They just kind of scuttle. So there's been multiple times when I have observed children in the street just kind of toddling around, and we have cars coming from 113th rounding the corner, and we're all in a hurry. We all have jobs, and I get it. And the perception is I need to get to Fowler as quickly as possible because I know I have a short window to get out on Fowler before all the traffic comes. And so I don't think anyone is intentionally driving fast. I just don't think they realize that it is a posted 25-mile-per-hour neighborhood road with a children's playground. And so the position of the single speed hump is closer to Fowler. That's not going to do anything to address the issue of the cars speeding past the children's playground where there are bicycles again. So I hope I stayed under 3 minutes, but more importantly, I have joined the golf club, I have joined the rec club. I loved your historical connection because I have attended everything I can. I love Temple Terrace. I did the tour of the Amazon distribution center today with my son, may I suggest. That is it. Thank you for everything, and again, for your
Thank you, Dr. Arthur. Next is Sam Crawford. Good evening, Mr. Crawford.
I'm also here to talk about that. I have a residence on 62nd Street as well. Yeah, so the speed bumps, we've been requesting that for a long time. I'm glad this is finally, thank you for putting in your work to make that happen. I do agree with everything she had mentioned. One, we do not think will resolve the issue. 2 or 3 maybe would resolve the issue, and I understand there's placement issues and regulations with how far from driveways and entrances that speed bumps can be placed, but the park is like a major attraction. People come from across Fowler to it, as well as people in the community. I would like to try to have more speed bumps in the area, more than just one. That's requested to try to slow down the traffic on that street. A lot of it also is inflicted, like when there's accidents is one big thing. It becomes a shortcut for people to cut around Fowler and go up to Gillette and get around an accident. It's very common. So yes, I agree with everything Stephanie said and appreciate all the work, and thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment on this item? This will conclude the public comment portion, so if you want to may have public comment, this is the time. It doesn't reopen. Okay, council members, are there questions? And then we're going to ask Mr. Warrenfield to respond to this. But are there council member questions, Vice Mayor?
Yes, this is primarily a question for staff. What is the criteria for the number of speed humps at any given?
So it's based on the length of the roadway and the availability to put the appropriate markings and signage for that. There also has to be ample space or distance for acceleration and deceleration. So based on the engineering review, that's the criteria for the one speed hump. The other criteria in this scenario is the residential portion along 62nd Street. The speed hump is in that portion of the street. The other end of the street is where the commercial businesses are. So it's closer, it's slightly closer to the south side than it is to the Fowler side.
Well, if we look at Ridgedale, we've got bing, 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 we got 5 of them in a quarter of a mile, or 4 of them in a quarter of a mile, if I remember correctly.
Correct. Right, so the street section, one of the requirements is at least 750 feet. So when you think about Ridgedale's obviously longer. There's a greater opportunity for acceleration and deceleration through that section. So
well, between the country
Correct.
club and Hole 1, and there's 3 of them at least, I believe.
Correct, yes. I understand. In this scenario, the recommendation through engineering, through our means and processes, it's recommendation for 1.
Other question?
Yeah, the other question I had was the number of petitions. Did the residents along 62nd petition this, or just?
So there was a resident petition from the.
What was the percentage of? Yes,
of
signed of the total number of residents.
So the petition met the requirements, which is part of the policy. That's how it moved forward.
Okay. Well, was it everybody, or was it was there?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that number in front of me, but I know it met the criteria.
Okay.
It was in the backup, I believe. It was more than 50%. It doesn't say what the, yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Councilmember Kravitz?
Thank you. The spacing, you, I think, used the word recommendation. Does that mean that there's flexibility?
So based on the criteria, through the engineering and our means and methods, the recommendation is 1 speed hump for this area. It also includes the traffic volume counts, the speed through the 85th percentile. There's a number of criteria that goes through the department before the recommendation is made.
So, again, when I hear recommendation, I think you could do 1, you could do 2, maybe 3, because it's a recommendation. It's not a hard requirement, right?
There's not a hard requirement. The hard requirements come from the MUTCD, where we are set by standards of appropriate signage, appropriate street markings, and distances for streets and driveways and cross streets. So those are set standards where they don't allow for consideration of adjustments.
So when it comes to those set standards that you can't deviate from, did you use those to the maximum extent when you planned these speed humps, or was there any leeway that you didn't use?
So all of the petitions are viewed in the same capacity. So it is not excluded from one standard to the next. So when the speed hump petitions are received, there is a number of requirements that it has to go through to meet the acceptability to put the speed humps in. So no, there's not a deviation from one to the other.
Sorry, I wasn't talking about the petition. I apologize if I came across a little unclear on that. What I meant was, when you planned out the number of speed humps here, there's a recommendation that's based on criteria that I just understood are not flexible.
Correct.
And what I'm trying to figure out is, did you put in the maximum number of speed humps in this area that would be permissible based on the strict requirements?
Without having the street measurement in front of me, which I don't have, I would have to say, I could look at that and follow up.
Great.
But off the cuff, I can't answer that.
Yeah, that's fine, no problem. I'd like to hear more about that, because if there's any additional flexibility that we have to put a second or maybe a third speed hump in, then I would like to see that. I know that this is an issue that's really near and dear to many, many people in Temple Terrace. People do not like the speeding. And the other thought that I have is, I see that in the report, the speed measured on the street was 41 miles per hour on average. So that's 16 miles per hour higher than the speed limit on average, which means that many people were likely going much faster than that, and some might have been going slower. Will we be following up on this street to make sure that the average measured speed is actually reduced? For example, by doing another survey of the traffic in a year to make sure that these speed bumps have actually had an effect?
So from history, I can say that since I've been here, we have not done a follow-up portion of that. I don't think that it's unachievable, but it's the overall consensus from what feedback we hear is there is an understanding that the speeds have dropped, particularly Ridgedale, Sunnyside, and those areas. So it's definitely a consideration that we could follow up.
Yeah, okay, I'd like to see those two things. First, I'd like to make sure that we've put in as many speed bumps as we can on that road. And the other thing is, I'd like to see a follow-up to make sure that our work is actually bearing fruit. And I think it's really important when we put speed bumps in that we actually go back and check our work later to make sure that we achieved our objective when we did that. And I yield, thank you.
Questions, Councilmember Fernandez?
So I'm very familiar with the area, and I just want to ask you, if the stretch of road only allows for one speed hump, wouldn't it make more sense to put it closer into the park area versus closer to Fowler? Because it just seems like there's still a lot of space. I know that you have the considerations that you have to include in the analysis, but it just seems like there's a lot of space past the speed hump before you even get to the stop sign at 113 and 62nd to build up speed again. And that is one of the areas that the residents have expressed the most concern about, being that that's the place where you're more likely to have a pedestrian or bicyclist encounter. So I have the same questions of, is the one speed bump and in this placement based on our recommendation, or is it the hard rules that we cannot negotiate around, setting that this ends up being the only place that we could put a speed bump? And so I'd like to know if that's the case. And then I'd also like to know if, and this was obviously not part of the consideration because the petition came from the people on 62nd, but so when you come from Fowler to 113 on 62nd, there's a stop sign. So theoretically, you should be stopping at it, slowing down some to stop. Coming from 113, making a right on 62nd, there's no stop sign. So would it also make sense, even though it's technically not part of that petition, but it's feeding into that traffic pattern, to consider a speed bump on 113 as you approach 62nd? Because I guess what I'm saying is, it doesn't make sense to me if we put a speed bump in place that doesn't actually change the behavior or have the outcome that we need. It's just a bump in the road.
So the question about 113 is, without having a petition for 113, it doesn't meet the criteria to be viewed in this scenario. The other comment about the location of it, again, think about acceleration, and then there is a driveway on the southern end that is before the speed hump. So in the criteria, we have to stay away from the driveway, and to get the markings and the signage, there was not enough area before the driveway to put all of that, plus the speed hump, and then the other side. Which it also would be, and you're right, if we put it there, if the choice was to put it there, there could have been a scenario where there would need to be another one because of the distance between that hump and Fowler Avenue. So,
I guess what I'd like to ask really of city staff is there another mechanism that might be better to calm the traffic and the speed in this area? Because I agree, I think an average of 49 miles an hour and a 25 is pretty high. And I guess when I look at the placement of this speed bump, if this is the only place that we can put it based on the hard criteria, it doesn't seem like it's going to have the impact that people are looking for.
well, and I will say to that, if you look at Sunnyside, the original speed humps that were placed on Sunnyside were a less aggressive speed humps than the newer style that we are using. So the overall impact can, Ridgedale, Sunnyside, the streets, the other streets that we've installed those on, I mean, they're aggressive. They force you to slow your speed. There's going to be, my opinion is, there's going to be some impact as far as the volume of speeds, the speed of the vehicles, because of the aggressiveness of how high the bumps are. I don't know what that is obviously today because we don't have the hump in, but if you don't slow down for that at 41 mile an hour, you're going to wish you would have well before that. So,
so I mean, this is just my non-traffic opinion, but it just seems to me like the residents expressed their bigger concern is the right turn from 113, high acceleration, that this particular speed bump's not going to address that issue at all. So that's why I'm just concerned it's going to slow you down before you get to Fowler, and then it's going to have some impact from the people coming in from Fowler, but it's not going to have any impact on that area. So I just think, I mean, I'm not opposed to putting the speed bump. I just don't think that we're looking at it needing to go, which is why I would ask, are there other traffic calming measures that could be implemented here that might have the efficacy to address the speeding in the particular area where it seems to be more problematic? So that's it.
Questions? Councilmember Chambers.
Sorry to beat this up, but back to the 750-foot rule. That's from an intersection and from a driveway? Is that a rule or a recommendation?
So the roadway has to be at least 750 feet, even for the consideration of a speed hump. So that is the portion for 750 feet.
So is there a recommendation from any driveway? Because there's two entrances to the condos there, and the southern one is between this, obviously between the speed hump and 113th. So is there enough room from that driveway south to 113th by your standards for driveways to put a speed bump?
From the driveway south to 113th?
Yes. Is there enough room by your qualification, by your rules? I mean, I didn't see any markings. I tried to go on maps and I'm not good enough. That's okay. It's fine. It's fine if you don't know. What? Council member.
I guess based upon some of the questions so far, and I've put Mr. Warnfeld on the spot because I think if you if the council is so disposed to have us take a second look at this, just to answer some of these questions, get that stuff answered, bring it back to you at a next meeting, if we can get it on the next agenda. I think that would be a way to move this along, if that's what the council wants us to pursue. If otherwise, just let us know. But we hear what you're saying, and we understand the idea of the recommendation. I want to get a grasp of that too, working with Jason upon the recommendations versus what the rules are, and et cetera. So I think the staff did what we asked them to do, follow the policy, do the criteria. But I hear what the council is saying so far.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I drive that road 5 times a day, that particular section there, and it's bad. And then people come flying around that corner. We can figure, we're not saying no, we're saying just, can you put 2 or so, at least 2. I think you'd one at either end, you're gonna, because people come, once they come off past the daycare, they go flying down the road because they want to get onto 113th, and conversely coming back the other way. So going north on 62nd. We really need more than one. We figure out a way to put it in there.
Okay. So, Councilmember Kravitz.
I was just thinking perhaps Councilmember Schizler could make a motion to that effect, that staff be instructed to come back with a plan to implement 2 speed bumps on that road. It's a good idea.
I think you got I think you got the I don't think we need a motion. For my opinion, I don't think we need a motion for that. Staff knows what we need and come back to us with it.
I may then.
Wait, it's an agenda item that we need to do.
Councilmember Kravitz still has the floor.
I just want to say, I think that many people were very engaged in this process. They filed a petition, they came here to speak. I don't want to send them home without the feeling and something that's actually legally binding that this is going to move forward. And so I'd like to make that motion then if Councilmember Schizler doesn't want to. So I'll move that we ask staff to investigate whether at least 2 speed bumps can be installed on that stretch of road and to report back at their earliest convenience and no later than 2 months, to that effect.
There is a motion.
So, I mean, I will second it. I don't know if we should be that specific but I'm all for the investigation, so.
I'm in favor of having them investigate it further too. I'm glad you stopped short of directing 2 speed bumps, because I don't think we as elected officials ought to be directing engineering department. I mean, we need to comply with the MUTCD, and that's the manual for uniform traffic control devices. We have to comply with that. If we don't, we open ourselves up to all kinds of liability for anything that happens because we knowingly violated the MUTCD. I don't have any issue with the motion because it asks staff to go back, take a second look at it, make sure, confirm your findings or adjust your findings, whatever, and bring it back. So I'll be supportive of the motion. So, other comments, discussion?
I have a comment. I can either say it now or new business. It's about kind of this topic.
You have the floor.
Okay, to everybody out there, this council's worked for many years, our goal-setting sessions and stuff, to try to stop speeding and aggressive driving in Temple Terrace. We've had goals on this for years. We've hired 4 new police officers just for a traffic unit to go out there. We've done a lot of money. We're spending a lot of money, and we're still spending a lot of money, and some of these speed bumps do inconvenience our residents, but they're needed. If we would just slow down, please talk to your neighbors. We just need to slow down. It would save our citizens a lot of tax dollars. That's all, just a speech. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We've worked hard on this for years.
We have. So we have a motion, a second. Is there further discussion of the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Thank you, Mr. Warren Phelps. Thank you, Mr. Patel. Okay, next is a resolution approving final site plan SPR-25-10 for Culver's located at 5880 East Fowler Avenue. Senior planner Alyssa Livingstone is here to explain. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Alyssa Livingstone, the senior planner. This presentation is for the consideration of approval for final site plan SPR 2510 for Culver's proposed for 5880 East Fowler Avenue. The property is 1.73 acres in size and is zoned commercial general. The applicant seeks to demolish the existing structure, which was formerly a bank. The proposed project involves the construction of a 4,413 square foot quick service restaurant with a drive-through. The property is positioned with offices to the north, automotive repair center to the south, city utility and condominiums to the east, and a restaurant to the west. Here is the overall site plan. There are 49 on-site parking spaces provided. This includes 3 ADA parking spaces. On-site parking is located on the northern portion of the site. The proposed pedestrian access points are to the south of the site along East Fowler Avenue. 20 outdoor patio seats are proposed to the east side of the building. Due to the specific site geometry and optimal traffic flow, the proposed drive-through pickup window is on the south side of the building and runs parallel to East Fowler Avenue. To enhance the streetscape, the applicant proposes the use of dwarf Walters viburnum as a primary landscape buffer. These will be planted at a minimum height of 2 feet. According to our city's arborist, as the plants grow, they will mature into full hedges. Because they are dwarf viburnums, they are not expected to exceed 4 feet in height. Here is the north elevation, where the main entrance will be. This is the south elevation, where the drive-through pickup window will be. This is the east elevation. This is the west elevation. This is the proposed pylon sign to be located on the corner with East Fowler Avenue and North 60th Street. This is on the southeastern portion of the site. There are 4 conditions with this approval. These include standard conditions regarding land development code language. The applicant shall widen North 60th Street adjacent to the subject property to 24 feet. This improvement shall be completed to comply with city and Florida Department of Transportation current roadway design standards. The plan will expire in 2 years as per section 12-380 of the Land Development Code. Where standards are not specified here in the city's LDC standards or current codes will apply. Thank you. The applicant's representative is present and is also available to answer any project-specific questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Livingstone. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation at this time, prior to public comment? No? Okay. All right. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none. Council members, questions? Okay. All right. If there are no questions, is there a motion?
Move to approve. approve final site plan SPR 25-10 for the Culvers located on 5880 East Fowler Avenue.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion of the motion?
With conditions as presented.
With conditions as requested,
Second.
with the conditions listed.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. Resolution is adopted. Thank you, Ms. Livingstone. Next, we have a resolution affirming the city manager's approval of a minor modification to the building elevations for 10024 and 10026 Davis Road, otherwise known as RZP 23-02. Ms. Livingstone will speak to this as well.
Before you tonight is a request to formally affirm the city manager's administrative approval of a minor modification to plan development RZP 2302. The subject properties are located at 10024 and 10026 Davis Road. The applicant is requesting the addition of a new building elevation option named Lakeside for their planned development zoning district. Staff has reviewed this application under the standards of Section 12-380 of the Land Development Code regarding deviations from approved plans. While the LDC grants the city manager the administrative authority to approve this as a minor modification, given that the properties are located within a planned development zoning district, the city manager has requested that this be brought before you tonight to formally affirm this approval. Here are the previously approved elevations and models. We have the Aria, the Cali, and the Hayden. And this is the new proposed elevation, Lakeside. This is a single-story, 2,077 square foot home. Here is the floor plan associated with the proposed elevation. This is a 5-bedroom floor plan option. To provide context on the scale of this modification, this option is intended for a limited portion of the development. Specifically, it is proposed for only 5 out of the 28 homes within this planned development zoning district. Staff recommends approval of the resolution affirming the city manager's approval of a minor modification to the building elevations for RZP 2302. Thank you. The applicant's representative is present and is also available to answer any project-specific questions as well.
Thank you, Ms. Livingstone. Does the applicant wish to make any comments at this time? Yes, ma'am? No? Okay. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none. Council members, are there questions? I have one. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I just said, well, why?
Okay, good question. So this is a unique, I wouldn't say it's unique, but it's unique because this was a planned development. So their elevations originally were part of their zoning approval. And so if you recall, this is like the third iteration now of elevations. The first set were approved, and then they came back after they did more market research and they decided they knew more about the site, that they wanted to do new elevations. And the process, because it was part of a rezoning, we'd have to go out and potentially do a 2 public hearing rezoning. It would take weeks, if not months, to do. It seemed too burdensome. It seemed out of proportion. with what they were asking. So what we looked at is we looked at the ordinance allows me as the manager to accept minor modifications, which this would typically be a minor modification. But in light of the fact that it's related to a PD, I felt the need to bring it to the council to have you affirm it. This still avoids 2 public hearings and opening up the rezoning and doing all that. And that's what we did the last time with the first set that Ms. Livingstone showed you, the first, I believe, 4 types of elevations. So what the developer, as I understand it now, wants to do is add a 5th elevation, which again seems to be minor, but in light of the fact that it was related to that, we want to have the council's approval. We want to have the resolution tying it to the zoning for the future reference of anybody looking at the plan history here.
I have no problem with this concept. It's a follow-up question for the city attorney. How is this any different, given the machinations we went through the last couple of public hearings where the city manager can sign off on something? How is this situation different from what that, or are we talking apples and oranges?
We're talking apples and oranges.
Okay.
If what I'm understanding is what we approved, and you're talking about allowing the city.
Microphone.
Sorry. What we approved, was it last meeting, at least had second hearing on, was the signing off on plats, which is taking a big piece of property, and breaking it up. This is just adding an elevation.
That's it, I'm fine. So to clarify, make sure I wasn't walking in a snowstorm, okay?
Other questions, Councilmember? No. I have one, Ms. Livingstone. I'm assuming that this doesn't change because I mean, I know the applicant and the city worked very hard to get this to where it is. This doesn't change anything concerning floor ratios or setbacks or lot sizes or any of that. It's the same basic size footprint?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Good, thank you. That's all the questions I have. If there are no questions, is there a motion?
Yes. Move to approve the resolution affirming the city manager's approval of a minor modification to the building elevations for 10024 and 10026 Davis Road, RZP 23-02.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays? Resolution's adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the first public hearing and first reading of an ordinance to amend the planned development zoning district at Woodstork Plaza, otherwise known as RZP 25-2. I will open the public hearing, and our city planner, Joe Moreta, is here to explain. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Happy New Year. I'm here to provide a presentation on the review of rezoning 2502, a planned development known as Woodstork Plaza, located in the telecom development of regional impact. Just to give you some context, the parcel information, the location is approximately 420 feet from the corner of Tampa Telecom Drive and Fletcher Avenue. The size of the modification area is 2.31 acres, and it's part of a larger PD, which is 7.8 acres in total. The access includes 2 access points on Fletcher. It has shared access internally that feeds into the 2 accesses on Fletcher, and it also has 1 access point on Telecom. In terms of the regulatory background, the property is subdivided as part of the Woodstork plat. It's lot 7A. In terms of the zoning, the current zoning is planned development. It was zoned through Ordinance 1530 and part of rezoning application 1713, which serves as the base for the planned development that this is modifying. It's also part of the Tampa Telecom development of regional impact. In terms of the existing zoning context, the approved uses are divided up in sites A through F. In Site A, it's approved for a maximum of 7,500 square feet for convenience retail gasoline sales with a drive-through. In Site B, it's approved for a car wash, and also as part of the use mix, Site B through F is approved for medical office, general retail, restaurant, and drive-through, and the total for sites B through F is 21,500 square feet. Getting into the proposed modification, no change in use is proposed or no waivers are requested. The increase is to provide an additional 5,722 square feet to the existing 29,000 square feet, bringing it to a total of 34,722 square feet. The additional 5,000 plus square feet will be directed to Site C, which is basically the only undeveloped parcel of the site, and also they're utilizing an additional area south of Site D and C to provide an expanded parking area. In terms of the surrounding uses, to give you some context, to the north is Fletcher, to the south is a platted area that will remain vacant, and also to the east and west. To the west is a car wash is under construction, and to the east is existing commercial buildings. Getting into the analysis a little bit here.
We've lost our video.
Uh-oh, we lost comms?
There we go.
It might have been me.
Here comes help. Please bear with us for a moment. We've lost our video screens up here, so we can't see what you can see.
They can't see it either.
They can't see.
Oh, they can't see it either. So we do see what you see. That's the problem. There we go.
Okay, we're up to the analysis portion now. I'm going to speak a little bit to the transportation review that we did. The transportation, the network is basically mitigated by the development of regional impact. When the development of regional impact was approved, there was extensive amounts of mitigation that were required, either in the form of improvements or the form of fees, and it accounted for, in that analysis, a number of trips. In the DRI itself, there's an equivalency matrix. And as long as that matrix, as long as the trips were accounted for in that matrix, it allows for a change in use based on trip generation. In this case, they're proposing to exchange approximately 31,484 square feet of some type of office use for 8,000 square feet of retail. And that's pretty much the way it's been throughout all these sites, is they've used this equivalency matrix in the DRI. As long as they're staying within the numbers of that equivalency matrix and with the approved trip generation for the DRI, then the network has already been mitigated for as part of the DRI, or the Development Regional of Impact. In terms of the access improvements, Hillsborough County has jurisdiction over Fletcher in this location. We contacted them to discuss this, and in their opinion, when they reviewed this, they initially reviewed it as part of a 2008 office project that was on this site before it was rezoned to planned development. Well, it was rezoned back then, but before it got rezoned for the retail. When they reviewed that, they reviewed 79,500 square feet of office. So what they're saying is, when it comes in for site engineering, if they don't go past the amount of trip generation that they reviewed in the 79,500 site plan, that they would not need any access improvements. If they do, then they'll seek the access improvements at site engineering. So there's a condition in here that requires that, so that evaluation and the equivalency matrix will be reviewed at site engineering. So all that would be accounted for at this point. Right now, what we're considering is the zoning to facilitate that to happen at site engineering. Next slide it deals with the environmental area. There's an area south of the site that's platted as conservation area. When we looked into this, we contacted the Environmental Planning Commission, and we also contacted SwiftMud. And there was an extensive discussion on if the site was wetland, if any setbacks were required, if any other type of regulations would be applicable. And what we concluded with EPC and SwiftMud is that the project has already been mitigated. It's essentially property that's approved for development impacts, even though no developments proposed for the property. Therefore, no setbacks are required. And we cross-checked that with SwiftMud. We cross-checked it with EPC. There's a letter in the record from EPC to that effect, and that's also a portion of that, a snapshot of that, is what's been provided additionally on the PowerPoint. In terms of the comprehensive plan, this was reviewed by Planning Commission staff. Planning Commission staff found it consistent with a comprehensive plan for the city of Temple Terrace. In terms of the Development Review Committee, or the DRC, this was also reviewed by the Development Review Committee. No objections were provided. The conceptual plan will be reviewed for final site engineering if this is approved, again, by the DRC, and then that would come back to the council as part of a site plan approval. In terms of our staff findings, what we concluded that we felt that it was compatible with the surrounding uses. I mean, effectively, there's no use change, so we're only talking about amount of use. So it's clearly compatible. In terms of the DRI and the site engineering requirements, they're going to offset any type of transportation that's going to be generated by the additional square footage. And we agree with the Planning Commission staffs that the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan. I'm available if you have any questions, and the applicant is also available if you have any questions of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morita. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation at this time?
I'm happy to answer questions if
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? Mr. Loeb.
Charles Loeb, Terrace Park. Just a quick question. In relation to I-75, how far is this from I-75?
Okay. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment? Other members of the public? Okay, this concludes the public comment portion. Mr. Morita, can you?
I don't know precisely how far it is, but if the question is related to jurisdiction on the roadway, when we discussed it with Hillsborough County, they said it was their jurisdiction, so that's where we left it at.
I'm guessing it's probably a mile and a half. Yeah, it's not very far. So. Okay, council members, are there questions? Councilmember Fernandez.
So I want to clarify, all that this request is doing is asking us to allow a higher square footage than was previously approved. And, all right, so that's confirmed. And then I also want to confirm with the stormwater issues, because obviously that has been a big concern that residents have after the last two storms where stormwater was a problem, and as we build on pervious surfaces. So to clarify, this entire, the space that is allowable for building has already, even before there were no buildings there, but planned for the buildings, already has the stormwater mitigation and storage and containment required for proposed construction. So there will be no change to that, correct?
There may be some change in the actual coverage on the land, but the master stormwater plan accommodates that. It far exceeds what's necessary, and it can easily accommodate what's proposed.
Okay, and I know we talked about it at the previous, but I just want to bring it up so that people understand that that is a consideration. And anything else with traffic patterns or trip generation or anything like that is going to come before us at a future meeting, correct?
The site plan will come back to you. I can tell you that in terms of the impacts that were evaluated and mitigated as part of the development of regional impact for telecom, I think they're only approaching somewhere in the vicinity of 60 or 70%, and the likelihood is that they'll never attain the impacts that they're approved for in terms of the network. The other part of the transportation would be the access management, and that's the piece that we'll work with Hillsborough County on to validate that there isn't any additional improvement, maybe to a potential turn lane or something like that, that's needed as a result. But again, if it doesn't exceed the trip generation that it was approved for when it was reviewed for the 79,500 square feet, Hillsborough County does not want to see it.
Thank you.
I mean, they'll look at it, but they won't have any, additional improvements. Thank you.
I think the petitioner, sir, did you want to respond? No? Okay. Are there other questions for staff or the petitioner? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Morado. I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read. Is that where I am? Yes, I'm going to ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance. I lost myself there.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, approving a zoning reclassification amendment for two planned development parcels totaling 2.3 acres plus or minus of property consisting of two folios, 199,554.0732 and 199,554.0734, generally located at the southeast corner of Tampa Telecom Drive and Fletcher Avenue for RZP 25-02, providing for amendment of the official zoning atlas map of the city, providing for severability, providing for correction of typographical errors, repealing all ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion?
Move to approve on first reading ordinance to amend the planned development zoning district of Woodstork Plaza, RZP 25-02.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion of the motion? No. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Ordinance is adopted on first reading and will appear for second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Okay, our next item is the second public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1588, amending the future land use of a parcel of land located south of Talina Lane, east of North 78th Street, north of Lake Isle Drive, and west of Cedar Drive, from Residential 9 to Residential 18, otherwise known as CPA-20-02. We'll open the public hearing, and City Planner Mr. Morado is here to explain.
Good evening again, Joe Morado, Community Development. Mayor Ross just pretty much touched on the particulars. It's a small-scale amendment, 3 acres. Ms. Unica Mills is here from the Planning Commission just to provide a brief upcap, and then after her, I'm going to speak to some of the questions that the council had regarding stormwater that we said that we would come back with some response to after Unica speaks.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome,
Thank you.
Ms. Mills. Thank you for your patience tonight.
Hi, Unica Mills, Planning Commission staff. At the December 16th council meeting, Planning Commission staff recommended that TTCPA 2002 be found consistent with the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan for a change to Residential 18 based on the following goals, objectives, and policies. Policy 1.1.6 within the Comprehensive Plan, which identifies the subject site as being within an urban area. Policy 1.4.6, which states to foster different residential living choices. We also found the change to be consistent with Goal 2, which states to achieve a well-balanced combination of residential, non-residential, recreational, as well as public uses, while also preserving the neighborhood character within Temple Terrace. We also found the request to change the future land use designation to Residential 18, consistent with Objective 8.3, Policies 8.3.1 and 8.3.7, which speak to all new development and redevelopment having public facilities in place to serve it. Also found it consistent with Housing Policy 1.2.6, which encourages a greater variety of housing types to diversify yet maintain compatibility with single-family neighborhoods. And I stand for any questions that you may have regarding this. This item is up for final vote by council this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Mills. Let's get Mr. Morado to finish, and then we'll have public comment, and then if you don't mind sticking around for questions afterwards.
Thank you, Unica. Council members, at the last hearing, we spoke a lot about site design, and especially the stormwater. I just wanted to clarify that what's before us tonight is a comp plan amendment. So at this point, we don't have any specific site design. As a follow-up to the last meeting, I reached out to Jason Warmfeld, and we had a discussion over it. And essentially, in layman terms, what we concluded is that when the site goes through the engineering review, the area will not experience, any worse flooding than it has. It won't correct any of the existing deficiencies, however. So any resulting stormwater as a result of any development on the site will not worsen that issue in the vicinity. Also reached out to Miss Linda Darwish, who I believe is in attendance tonight, and sent her that email. And we also provided, which this is something that Jason would need to speak to, but we also provided the development bullet points that pretty much touch the engineering standards for which this will be reviewed. It is in a closed basin. It would be a cup-for-cup review. It's in a 100-year floodplain. Swift mud requires floodplain based on best available information, not limited to FEMA maps. So we're getting into a lot of engineering that Jason would likely have to speak to. It also indicates a stormwater design must be for a 100-year storm event. Floodplain compensation, as I said, provided for fill impacts between must be cup for cup. It has a lot of metrics in here, which, to be honest with you, I'm not totally familiar with, like EL 33.81. But if you would like a more detailed engineering metric explanation, Jason's available. I guess the easiest way to say it in layman terms is that when the site's development, it won't make anything worse, but it's not going to improve any existing deficiencies.
Okay, well, we'll get to that if the discussion goes that way then.
And I'm available for any other questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, we do have some members of the public who wish to speak. I have one current from, I'm sorry, Renee, and I can't make out the last name. Minson, okay. Well, welcome, ma'am. You're recognized. Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to y'all, too. Thank you for your time. Of course, as being president of the HOA in Meadowood, I do have a lot of concerns considering the flooding issues, as I expressed last month. Two sides of their property, with whatever gets done, is adjacent to, very closely to, some of our residential area that did sustain some flooding area after Milton. Also, what is also adjacent to that is our lift station, so there's another reason for our concerns regarding the flooding and possibilities of another 100-year storm, or just worse storms as we have. Aside from that, some of the additional concerns within the area, I don't know if there's any other residents from any of the other neighborhoods. This property is closer towards Bullard Parkway than it is to Harney. In the last 5 to 7 years, the increase of traffic on 78th Street has been substantially increased. After the Amazon Center was built, yes, that's towards the other end of Harney, not as close, but you have a number of employees on 3 different shifts to go through there, and it cuts down to 78th. That has increased the 78th Street traffic. The development that Florida College had sold the property from the golf course. Fortunately, we got a lot less residential homes over there than what was originally projected, but still that has come along, not only increased the traffic on Bullard, but also on 78th Street, very, very much so. The storage facility that was built adjacent to part of Meadowood, not only has that increased with traffic for employees, but also for the truckings, deliveries to that, because they cut down that way. Anytime if there's a traffic jam on Bullard, that's a shortcut to get back to Harney on 78th. So now we also have the VA medical clinics that have also entrance off of Harney and that, so that's going to create more traffic. Not only is the traffic greater over along there, but the speeding is, as what the other residents may have had, duplicate that. I don't know, is the ruling for Temple Terrace from the curb to the property, is it 8 feet that the city owns okay, like from the curb on 78th Street to where their property begins, are they responsible from the curb property up, or does Temple Terrace take care of at least, I know in the city of Tampa, it's like about 14 feet that they still maintain. Right now, if that's the case, it's not maintained very well on that end. We're not on a golf course. We're not on the river. We're on the other end that doesn't get looked at very, very friendly sometimes. If you drive down there now, the traffic has increased, people just throwing crap out the windows. There's nobody that comes along and helps pick that up except for like in our development, our maintenance person, and possibly development on the other side. The other concern along there with the traffic is sidewalks. There's no sidewalks. It's a very dangerous, and right now if you go down there, you can barely even see the yellow lines that go down. There's a lot of concerns with adding 54 units. There's only going to be one way for them to get in and out, and that's on to that end of 78th Street, which is, like I said, fairly close to that. Now, we have 341 units, and when it was built in 75, the beginning of it, everybody pretty much just drove one car in their family. That does not happen today. A family has two cars. If they've got kids, they don't ride buses anymore. Parents like to buy cars. So you got if you've got 54, you got 108 vehicles in addition going in and out of that end of 78th Street. These are a lot of things to take into consideration in allowing it to increase that volume. And we're talking about 3 acres of land. We just saw 2.3 acres with all they wanted to do. And looking at that, they showed a lot of drainage ponds over there. I don't see how that's going to happen. They don't even have an idea of what type of structure. Are they townhouses? Are they row homes? What is being built? To me, approving something to go forward with something like that without some additional knowledge, considering all the factors, is something that I think the council really should, take into consideration. Like I said, I'm speaking for Meadowood. I'm not speaking for Orange Park that is adjacent around there to that whole area that suffer from the traffic that's already increased along there. So I thank you for your time and appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Minson. Are there other members of the public who wish, well, I've got one comment, so, okay. Karen Mahalski. Good evening. Madam Clerk, I need you to set the timer, please.
Karen Mahalski, Temple Terrace. This is I don't know what it was, a CPR, but when it was in 2020, I was very much in support of this. Yes, of course, this lady has very much valid reasons, but the reason why I was supporting this as an environmental advocate is because it's close to the Hart route, so that means we can double the development. And we are in the urban. This is where we want to have development, and this is where the Temple Terrace, we can offer additional housing. And if we could get Hart and change it maybe to a triple, then this is even going to improve it. And yes, we're going to always have storm, we're going to have driving and all these. But what this offers is it offers options for people. If we look at Route 48, which is our great bus route, you can go from the Net Transfer Park and then you can pick this up at this location. You can go to the VA hospital. You can be Amazon. You could go to get dropped off at Fowler and go shopping at Publix. You could go eat dinner. You could go to Moffett. So this is really a great location for somebody that can't drive. They could get to Moffitt Cancer. They could get to the VA centers, both of them. They could get to grocery stores. They could have a part-time job or something at Amazon. They could work at Publix. This is something that really offers our community and bringing more people into our community. Yes, of course, we have to solve our driving and our speeding and our flood, but homes and having availability where everyone feels they're in control of their options, and they have several options of having a great life and being a part of our community. This is something that I think that we really should support. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Mahalski. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Ms. Rennie?
Yeah, I didn't sign in. I spoke the last time.
Good evening.
Annette Rennie, 9512 Woodland Village Drive. Again, I've had several units back in Meadowood when it rains hard or when we had those storms that summer, people had water in their houses, they had water in their driveways, they had water in their, coming up to their houses. To put more cement or stuff down where the land doesn't percolate makes no sense. It just makes no sense whatsoever. This is not a good idea. Thanks.
Are there other members of the public who wish to comment?
Mayor, can I just clarify something? I want to make sure this is clear. Nothing is being approved to be built tonight. What this is what, I guess in the easiest way of saying it is, what would be allowed to be built there. All right, this isn't, so nothing's being built. All good concerns, and those concerns would come up if someone comes in and says, hey, we want to develop this. Right now, I just want to make sure you understand this is just a vote on what can be allowed to build there. They're changing that from 9 units an acre to 18. That's what they're asking.
Okay. You've already spoken, man. This is not back and forth. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment on this? Okay, Mr. Moreto.
Yes, sir.
Council members, are there questions for staff or from Planning Commission staff? Councilmember Kravitz.
I have a question for you, Mr. Morito. I noted in the report that staff and the Planning Commission both encouraged approval of this. And I was wondering if you could explain one point to me that seems a little confusing. The minimum gross lot area for townhouse developments is, I think, 10 acres. And this is on 3. So how did it come to pass that this was approved if it doesn't meet that requirement?
That's one typology that's allowed. There's other, it allows multifamily. So in terms of a townhome project, they'd have to have a 10-acre minimum, or they'd have to seek a waiver of that with the site plan. If they seek the other typologies, it didn't have that minimum in there, in the code.
So they sought a waiver, and that was.
No. There's no project before us. There's no typology before us. But if they seek that typology, then that 10-acre minimum would be required. But it also allows multifamily. That's for townhomes.
Oh, okay. So what you're telling me then is, in the future, they would need to get a waiver, or they would need to build townhomes.
No, if they build townhomes, they would need the waiver. If they build multifamily, then that wouldn't apply.
Okay. So in all likelihood, what we'll see coming down is multifamily development for that location because they probably won't want to get a waiver.
That would be a question for the applicant.
Yeah. Okay. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor. So would you walk us through, please, for everybody's edification, because the city attorney was correct. You kind of took words out of my mouth, but you did a better job, so thank you. Would you walk us through the next steps, assuming that the petitioner wanted to develop this, assuming this were approved?
Sure.
What steps would remain for a project to potentially be approved?
The next step would be for them to file for a site plan that would be reviewed in accordance with Land Development Code and the technical manuals. As part of that, they would have to meet, well, in terms of the zoning side, they'd have to develop within their 3-dimensional box, which would be height, setback, any types of, buffering, things of that sort. They'd be reviewed in engineering for transportation. They, potentially would have to, provide some type of improvements on that, both on access improvements, obviously internal to the site. They would be reviewed, as we spoke to earlier, for any type of stormwater. If there's any type of wetland or on the site of that sort, they would also have to, provide appropriate setbacks. They would have to delineate. They'd have to be reviewed by APC as well. So that would be the next step. And then that site plan, the council's expressed an interest in seeing it. The site plan would be brought back to the council for review subsequent to the DRC review.
So at the site plan review, that would be the hearing that this council, in conjunction with staff, would work this up, and then this council would be concerned, this is where we would be talking about issues like traffic impacts, stormwater mitigation to ensure that it's gallon for gallon of storm, they're capturing all their own stormwater. That would be the point in this process for that.
Yes, sir. At that point, we would have an engineered plan. We would have engineers reviewing it. We would have planners reviewing it. And we would have a, static, tangible project before us that we could respond to specific questions. So we would know trip generation. We would know the type of mitigation for that specific metric. We would know more about the amount of drainage that's required. We'd know what the density is, because right now we know that it's going to double from 18 to 9. So we know the densification is going to allow potentially more than the existing comp plan, but we don't know what that number will be. So we'll know at that point. One thing I would also add is that if they stick with the existing zoning and don't rezone this, they're going to be held to an approximate 30% coverage ratio, and that's not going to change. So even though the density is changing, the coverage is not changing because the district isn't changing. If they do a PD or they do some other type of zoning, then they'd have to come back and do that zoning and then get into the site plan process, which the council would also have discretion over that matter as well.
Okay. So, Mr. City Attorney, kind of a question for you, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but, so, I don't want to, but I'm gonna. So, at this point in the process, we're asking to amend the future land use of this property. There's a lot of things that have to be answered that don't get answered at this stage. Correct. I know that every step in the process, these county commissions, city councils, contrary to public belief, we can't just say no for any reason that we want. We have to have a legal reason to say no to something. What would the legal rejection rationales be at this stage in the process? Because obviously it can't be things that we're not yet confronted with, like traffic and stormwater and lot coverage and all. I mean, we can't be speculating about what might come to us in the future. So what could a body, how could a body turn this down?
Well, it would just, I guess it would be if you guys would, if this council would decide that that would be too dense, that you would not be in favor of that type of potential density from going from 9 to 18. I can't think of anything specifically, because usually the comprehensive plan amendments, once they've been through the planning commission who have vetted it out, would, I think that would be usually where a lot of these issues would rise up. I can't think of anything specifically other than whether the council here thought that this was not a good idea and would not want to go to that density.
That
Mr. Moreta?
I was just going to offer that at this point, there isn't any detail because it's not a project. The applicant hasn't offered any type of rezoning to accompany this. I mean, that is an option. I don't think you could speak to the applicant about that, but at this point, it's a comp plan amendment, so it's just essentially 18 units per acre. In terms of an area, that's appropriate for densification, we know it's in a multimodal area, but it also has other things that obviously will have to be mitigated for in terms of the additional transportation that might stem from this. We don't know what those numbers are because we don't have a site plan, or any type of stormwater. We know what the standard is of review, but we can't tell you, more specifics other than that because we don't know how much of the project's going to be covered. So as of right now, what we have before us is a comp plan amendment without a specific plan. And the only way to get, additional information would be to obviously get some type of plan before you that accompanies this. And, I don't know what the applicant has in mind down the road, but it might not be a bad idea to let them speak as well so they can get whatever they want on the record in terms of, their perspective on their application.
Well, that's coming. So in fact, that's a good segue. I don't know, would the representative of the petitioner, good evening, sir. Do you and you share with us at this point what you want to share with us, but I just don't think you would be here if you didn't have some idea what you were going to build. Do you want to share that with us?
So good evening. Happy
Good
New
evening.
Year. My name is Tarek Alfallah. I am representing the applicant for this amendment. At this time, kind of like we talked about the typology, we're not exactly sure what type of development within the existing zoning that we want to build at this time. And obviously, once we make that decision, we're going to come back in front of you guys and submit a site plan. Or if we want to rezone, we're going to submit a rezoning application. But truly, at this time, we don't know. We're obviously not seeking any exceptions or deviances at this time. But truly, at this time, we're not aware. We're aware of the concerns on the site, so we will have to, look at this engineerically and really create a good plan that's viable for us and also the community. But at this time, we're not exactly sure.
Thank you. Council members, questions? Councilmember Kravitz.
Thank you for coming by and for answering our questions. I appreciate it. My question to you is that, would you agree as a person who is involved in real estate, I'm assuming, that generally when you go for more density, you're putting in more units, and the goal of that is to have smaller units, which can then be rented out at a greater profit? More doors, more tenants. Is that what you're angling for here?
Not necessarily. It's really up to my dad and his partner on what they want to build. At this point, it's just a CPA application, so we want to be able to build, have the R18 density to potentially build that density that we want. But obviously, we're constrained with the existing setbacks under the zoning designation, and so ideally, we'd want to fit as many units as we can, but it's really a matter of what works and what's best for our product and the community.
So why not build within the current specifications?
Because we're seeking R18, we want to build more if it's viable. And as it's been stated a couple times, that this CPA application was found, or it's recommended to be consistent with the comp plan. And so one of the things that you could deny this project on if it wasn't consistent with the adjacent uses or consistent with the comp plan, but based on the comp plan policies that were stated, I think there is a lot of arguments in our favor for that, approving this CPA application.
Well, my impression is from what the city attorney, I'm going to get to a question in a moment. My impression is from the city attorney that we have to decide whether we want that much density or not. And so that goes back to the question that I just asked you. Why wouldn't you want to simply build within the existing requirements? Because as I noted in the report, this has been idle for 5 years.
Yeah, we just want more units.
Oh, but a minute ago, and I apologize, people often accuse me of cross-examining people, so I do apologize for this. But it really is just that I listen very carefully to what people say, or try to. You said a moment ago you don't know what you're going to build. But now you're telling me what it sounds like is you want to build the maximum number of units.
No, I'm saying that we want to build more units, not saying that I know I'm going to build more units. There's a difference.
Well,
if I want to build more units, it doesn't mean that I have a plan ready and I know the next steps to do it, but I want to have the option to do so.
Okay, but if you didn't want to do it, why would you want the option?
It's just like at this point, we want to have the option available, but like I said, there are concerns on site, so we don't know exactly how many units we're going to be able to put in there, but we want the option available to us.
Okay, so walk me through this. I'm sorry for belaboring the point. Let's go back 5 years. You filed for this application. Explain to me, help me understand, why in the 5-year period didn't you build something on that property?
Well, this application wasn't even approved in this 5-year period, obviously, because we're back here today. So up until that point, we would want this approved before we built. And just to be honest, I don't think we made those steps necessary to build on the site. There was just delays and such. And I think the owners of the property got busy with other things and they just weren't able to.
Is it possible that you're looking for an upzoning on this property, not in order to build, but so that you can sell it at a profit because a property zoned for higher density is worth more than one that isn't?
Not that I'm aware of.
You have no plans to sell this property?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so why didn't you build the R9? Why didn't you build the R9 when you had this property years and years ago? Why did it lie fallow for so long, unbuilt, unused, unloved?
Because we see an opportunity to potentially build more units, and based on the things that were stated today, that the adjacent uses are to the south and east of the site are R18. They are multifamily, and then based on that, we hope you find it consistent with the comp plan. But in terms of the engineering design of the site, we're going to come back and obviously submit a plan for that.
So my takeaway,
But like I said before, obviously we see this as an opportunity. We want to build more units if we can.
my takeaway from this, from my line of questioning, from the answers I've gotten is, you had an opportunity 5 years ago to build R9. You made an application 5 years ago to increase the zoning. You didn't know what you wanted to build back then, but you must have known back then that you wanted more density. Then you went ahead and waited 5 years. Now this is coming back alive. But you still don't know what you want to build, or at least you're not willing to commit to it publicly. Is there anything here that you want to correct in my takeaway from this?
I believe that we did not submit any application for a rezone.
I'm pretty sure you did. This was submitted in 2020, I think. That's when the Planning Commission...
Formal rezone? A formal rezone was submitted in 2020?
You tell me. That's what the files say.
Okay, well, so at this point, I can speak for what we plan to do right now, that we're not seeking a rezoning application. So if we're going to come back and rezone the site, we'll obviously submit an application, work with staff, and come and sit in front of you. But at this point, we want to increase the density of the site. We see it as an opportunity. We have no plans at this moment to sell it if this does get approved. But in terms of why there was a delay, people, I'm not, the owner of the site, but I believe they were busy. They got other things in their lives, and it got kind of pushed on the back burner.
Thank you for your time and your answers. I yield.
Are there other questions for staff or the petitioner, Vice Mayor?
At risk of beating this to death, if the R9 is consistent, the R18 is consistent, right? Either one is consistent with the comp plan? Is that true, Mr. Morita?
Are you asking me?
It's consistent if you find it consistent and adopt it.
No, I'm just saying, there's no, leaving it at R9 is not an issue, per se.
The R18, yes, sir, the R18 was evaluated. It was evaluated by Planning Commission staff, sent to their commission. They voted on it, and they found it consistent. We looked at it as well. We transmitted it to different review agencies. We got no negative responses. Most of the responses were, we'll look at it at site engineering. The only deficiency that I can recall that was pointed out was related to Heartline. There was a deficiency there 5 years ago, and that efficiency is existing now. So, the only way to answer any questions about specific impacts is going to be with the site plan. Essentially, the site plan will be designed to the standards that every site plan is designed to, and presumably, if those standards work, then the transportation will be mitigated, stormwater will be mitigated, and any other things that are out there, for example, like environment, et cetera, will be mitigated. That's the way the standards work.
I guess my question is looking at some kind of guardrails on the future pathway for this.
Mm-hmm.
On R9 would have left it a certain way, and R18 makes it potentially bigger. How will we be impacting future councils for whenever this would come back, be it this year or next year or the year after? How would that, I know the numbers that it's going to do. I mean, I realize that, but would a future council be able to say, no, we don't want that kind of density, even by allowing this change to go forward as far as the comp plan goes? I know we're not changing the zoning, we're not changing anything to that. We're just saying that this is one step in the process.
Mm-hmm.
It can still be rejected, but at that point, it would require empirical testimony, I would imagine, in order for it to be changed.
I think excuse me, I'm sorry. I think there are two things in play now. One of them is that the Temple Terrace Land Development Code doesn't have a density in it. So the density is regulated by the plan. So in a way, going from R9 to R18 is, in a sense, it's very similar to a rezoning. So when it's a standard district zoning, and Temple Terrace adopts something like that, then the fallback is to rely on the development standards. If the development standards, if there's a question about that and the council feels like there's more input and scrutiny that's necessary before they can make a decision, I suppose there's also another option of asking the applicant to, either produce a site plan or accompany the comp plan amendment with a plan development. So, in terms of how that may influence decision-making, then that would put it squarely before this board and not, put it beyond this point in time to any future boards. But that's not what's before us tonight, and that's why I said maybe the applicant wants to speak to that, because I think that at this point, there's a large question about, that can't be answered about it because we don't have the data.
Thank you.
I hope that answered your question.
As close as you could, yes.
Sorry.
Councilmember Chambers and Councilmember Fernandez.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Question for staff. Real quick, in your presentation that you gave us last meeting, and then in our backup, I want to clarify, the property to the north is residential 9.
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Property to the west is residential 9.
Let me double check that.
Okay.
I want to. Okay, I got the colors now.
Okay.
The property to the north is 9. The property to the east is
18.
18.
And to the south is 18.
18.
And to the west is 9.
Correct.
So it's right in the middle of either 9 or 18s already, correct?
Yes, to the north is 9 and then 12.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was having to get to the colors here.
Councilmember Fernandez.
So I think there's some confusion maybe about what the action is that we can take today. And that is that just because if council approves this and it's moved from R9 to R18, that doesn't mean the site itself will allow the density that the R18 designation would allow. So then, for all of our knowledge, when this does come back in front of council, when a site plan, at whatever point the property owner decides they are ready to build and produce a site plan, that site plan is going to have to be designed within the constraints of the property itself, which means that it's very possible that given the site and drainage requirements or setbacks, et cetera, that an R18 actual density isn't even available to build here. So I think, for me, I'm not against this change, because I believe that the concerns will be addressed at the time when something is going to be built there, because I know that it'll be constrained by the site. So I just want to make sure that that analysis is correct.
Yes, it's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Other questions, Councilmember Kravitz?
I actually have a motion to make. I thought it was, I think Ms. Minson spoke extremely persuasively to me. I'd like to make a motion that we table this until the applicant can bring forward a business plan that will give us some guidance on how he actually plans to use this property. I think he should come back with something a little bit more concrete before we simply give him this upzoning without knowing at all what is going to go there. So that would be my wish here. I think that it's reasonable to ask some general idea of what exactly is going to be built there, why he wants this, and I didn't hear any answers that gave me any comfort tonight with respect to that. So I yield.
So there's a motion. Is there a second to the motion? Okay, motion dies. Are there further questions or another motion? Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, we're out of order because we need to close the public hearing if we're going to go into motions, but
If I can, I think it's important I clarify something I said earlier that may have led people to believe that, oh, if you don't want this to change to R18, if you don't want that density, you're going to have a factual basis if you decide that you don't want to do that. It isn't a matter of we don't want it. I want to make sure you have evidence here. I just don't want to lead anyone to believe that it's just a matter of whether the city council wants it or not. There's evidence that was presented. You'd have to, if you decided not to go with it, you'd have to state the reasons why you wouldn't want it to go to R18.
okay. Council, we're still at the question stage. If you're ready to move on, I'll close the hearing and open it up for the petitioner. You may have the last word. Yes, sir.
I just want to say that there is no idea of what we're going to build, because obviously there's certain typologies that are required and allowed under the zoning designation that we're not proposing to change at this time. So there's no idea, but just like we spoke of earlier, that multifamily is a use, townhomes is a use, but we're not meeting that 10-acre requirement. I'm not fully aware of what the other typologies are under the zoning designation, but it's not like it's we could come in and build something that's not within that zoning designation.
Point of inquiry here, are we still in a back and forth, or what is this?
We are still in the hearing, so if you have questions for the petitioner, you can have the floor, sure.
I appreciate that, thank you. So now I feel like my questions previously were not truthfully answered, because if you have this idea, now I'm hearing that you do know what you want to build there, but you're kind of playing it close to the chest, and that makes me a little unhappy. So I want to give you one more opportunity. Can you please tell us what exactly is your state of thinking right now with respect to this property?
I'm sorry, I guess I misunderstood you. I thought we were under the same page that with the typologies that are allowed under the zoning designations, you're asking me what we're going to build. I'm not sure what, in terms of townhomes, multifamily, what it's going to look like. But currently right now the plan is to build under the existing zoning, which is what I stated previously.
The existing zoning being R9?
No, I think it's zone RMF. So multifamily
RMF.
residential.
Yeah, so you have a plan to build something now, but now I'm completely confused. So if you have a plan to build something under the existing zoning, why are you asking for a change?
No, well, we're seeking maybe there's some confusion.
This isn't a rezoning, this is a comp plan amendment. This is to change the underlying future land use map that would allow certain, increased density.
Yeah, he just said
This isn't a
he has a plan.
rezoning.
He said he has a plan to
rezoning's
build under the
RMF.
current density,
the zoning
but he's
is
asking
RMF.
for a higher density.
Yeah, so maybe Joe wants to explain it, but there's a difference between your future land use and your zoning designation. We're not proposing any change to the zoning designation at this time. We're only proposing to change the future land use from R9 to R18.
I yield the floor. And by the way, Mr. City Attorney, I had the floor there where you interrupted me. So for the future, thank you very much. I yield the floor. Thank you very much.
Okay. Are there further questions before I close the hearing? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Moreto. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending the Imagine 2040 Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map for a parcel of land located south of Talena Lane, east of North 78th Street, north of Lake Isle Drive, and west of Cedar Drive, consisting of approximately 3.0 plus or minus acres, by changing the future land use designation on said property from residential 9 to residential 18 for CPA 20-02, providing for amendment of the official future land use map of the city, providing severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I will ask for everybody's patience before we enter into the motion and discussion, which I assume is going to take a little while. The council member has asked for a 5-minute recess, so we will take a recess and then we'll begin the discussion. It's 8:23. In session. The clerk has read the title of the ordinance. We are at the point now to entertain motions. If the ordinance is acceptable, is there a motion?
I move on to approve on second public hearing and second reading of ordinance 1588, amending the future land use of a parcel of land located south of Talina Lane, east of North 78th Street, north of Lake Isle Drive, and west of Cedar Drive from residential 9 to residential 18, also known as CPA-20-02.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Kravitz.
So I voted yes on this the last time it came up on December 16th, and I think it really shows how much you miss when you're not on the ground looking at exactly what's going on in a given area. And sometimes that can lead to decisions being made that aren't in the best interest of the city. And I think Ms. Minson and her friends there brought some incredibly relevant points forward, and also Ms. Rennie, who also spoke previously about the drainage issues, but now I've heard them confirmed by other people as well. And it's really our political decision up here whether we want to have more density in Temple Terrace. And as I was just telling Ms. Minson during the break, we had 1,400 new apartments zoned in Temple Terrace in the last 5 or 6 years, and only about 300 new single-family homes. And so we have to be very careful about increasing density in Temple Terrace without regard for what that means for all the people who live here. The impact that it has on the roads, the impact that it has on our services, the impact that it has on the people who have been living here and expect a certain kind of neighborhood. And I heard Ms. Minson's concerns, and I think she brought to light a number of really salient points that were not in the staff report, and they've changed my mind on this. So I'm a no vote now on this, and I encourage everyone up here to give this the due scrutiny and criticism that it probably deserves, and which we might have missed on the first reading. And I also think this shows why it is so critical that we go through the proper legislative process for these things every time, because many things come up only after a second reflection. And going through things slowly and methodically is really valuable. So I yield my time. Thank you.
Other comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Motion passes on second reading. Okay, very good. Any carryover council business? Okay, I do have Councilmember Chambers says he has some new business.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council members, members of the audience, we've talked about the history of the, well, half my audience has gone away. We talked about the history of Temple Terrace, and I want to bring up a hidden gem in Temple Terrace, and that's the hallway that's right outside of City Hall, which is our City Hall Art Gallery. And today we had a change in show, and I want to thank Mike Knapp, artist that had his work displayed for the last 3 months, and we now have a new display up in that hallway art gallery, and that's by an artist, Arnold Martinez. He's a very well-known artist in Tampa, mostly works of Old Tampa and Ybor City. And it's his different mediums, and you wouldn't notice if you go look at it. He uses acrylic paint, regular paint, coffee, tea, extract of tobacco, wine, and beer, and those are what he paints with.
I like those.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones.
Anyway, Mr. Martinez has been deceased, but his works are presented by his son, Arnold Jr., who's a resident of Temple Terrace. So it's a great display out there. Look at it on your way out, please. Go one more hall over and look at it on your way out. And members of the public, please come to City Hall and look at this gallery. It's amazing art that we have in there.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you for all the work that you dedicate to making this happen. So appreciate that. Other new business or board reports, Councilmember Kravitz.
Quick question to the city manager. The Shirley Drive speed bump petition that we dealt with at one point, has there been any movement on that? I've received reports that there hasn't been.
No, it's ongoing. I believe it met the requirements for the petition. It's being reviewed by engineering. We'll bring something back to you at a future meeting.
Do you know when roughly?
In February. One of the
Great.
meetings in February.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a note. That's all.
Anything else? New business, board
I have
reports?
some questions for the city manager, but.
Let's do that. Question for him during It's his report, yep. I have a couple items of new business real quick. I want to congratulate our Vice Mayor Gil Schisler on his election to the Hart, as chairman of the Hart Board. Congratulations. Careful what you ask for. I also want to let the council know that at the next council meeting, we will be, they'll be on the agenda to elect the vice mayor for this year. And at the following meeting, which would be the first meeting in February, would be on the agenda for the board appointments for the year. We're probably one meeting behind what we should have been, but that's my fault. So that will happen at the next two meetings. And the last thing I wanted to mention is I will be going to Tallahassee for the League of Cities Legislative Days later this month, January 26th through 28th. As the representative for FLC and as the president of the Suncoast League of Cities, I'll be up there for the session. If the council wishes to adopt legislative priorities, we have one more council meeting before that, and I would have an opportunity to advocate for the city's priorities if you choose to adopt any. So. Otherwise, I'll be advocating for Suncoast League's priorities and Florida League's priorities, which are very similar. Just for a point of reference, the Suncoast League's priorities are only two, and that is the preservation of meaningful streams of income for local governments and resiliency, storm resiliency, infrastructure, hardening, that kind of stuff, about beach renourishment, sewer, lift stations, water quality, those kinds of things. Those are the two priorities for the Suncoast League. Florida League has a few more. They mirror that. Obviously, property tax is going to dominate this session. So, in any event, I don't have any, this council's not adopted any Temple Terrace priorities, but if you want to, we have one more meeting for you to propose that.
Have you seen a complete list of all the bills proposed?
Oh my gosh, how much time do you have? Yeah, they're up to, I don't know, 700 or 800 now. There was a lot were filed this week.
I haven't seen anything this week.
Yeah, there's been some new ones filed this week. It's really kind of hard to keep up with.
They haven't come up with anything, the League of Cities hasn't said anything about sovereign immunity issues.
Oh yeah, that's one of the.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah, that's Florida League, not Suncoast League.
Either one.
Usually, Suncoast League and Florida League are usually fairly in alignment, but Suncoast, there may be some unique things. Yeah, because they're unique to this region, as opposed to Miami or so.
I do,
Yeah.
I have a question for
Sure.
you about the property tax proposals that are at the state level right now. And so I understand the principle behind it, but how could we advocate, or how could we, I see both sides, and I understand what people are saying about renting their home versus owning it outright. Like you buy a cup from the gas station and you don't pay tax on it year after year. But the property taxes that we pay are basically the fee for the service that the city provides: police, fire, parks, rec, roads, a mix, but and it's calculated based on the value of property that someone owns. So I see both sides. How would we go about showing the financial impact? Because I don't think that we as a city have a lot of waste. I think we're pretty careful. I mean, I know that there's always, it's not impossible, or it is impossible to remove all waste from any kind of government spending. But I think generally speaking, our budget process, we're pretty careful. So we're a good example of what would happen if you change, or if you remove a full income stream, especially because we're highly residential. But anyway, I didn't know how the best way would be to go about presenting basically a clear case of here is what would happen. We're not complaining, oh, you're dropping our tax revenue, now we're going to have, we spend on services that people have requested. And how would we make up the funding in order to pay for those services? So I don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer to that one either. I can't really answer that. I can tell you that the Florida League of Cities has done a tremendous amount of really good quality work on this. They published a report, was it, Carlos, about 3 weeks ago, I think, that was really, I think, this has got to be one of the best work products I've seen FLC produce. This was really, really good. And it goes into a lot of what you're saying in general terms, but it also gets down granular into specific communities and how they vary between the urban and rural, and right, because no two cities are really alike. I mean, I think is it Panama Beach? They don't have any property taxes at all because they don't need it. They get it from tourism. But every city is a different scenario. But FLC has done a really good job of not only showing the general impacts, but the specific impacts. So take a look at that. We got it a couple weeks ago, so if you search through Carlos's emails, you'll find it again. Bob Enriquez, the property appraiser here, has also done a lot of analysis to determine how it would affect Hillsborough County and the 3 cities in Hillsborough County. Really good product on that. It's very helpful when you get into the ideas of some of the bills. They talk about raising the, homestead exemption or adding exemptions to it rather than eliminating it. Well, Bob's done, property appraiser Enriquez has done a great job of putting those, what would that really look like? And so he's got quite a bit of work done on that. Right now, I mean, my goal as SLC president, I'm not empowered to speak for this council yet, or anyway. My goal up there, in consultation with our consultants, political consultants, is it's very unlikely you're going to change anybody's mind up there. You're not going to go in and have a meeting with them and say, and change their minds. It's delivering facts, specific facts to say this is how this would impact the Suncoast League region, right? Some of the cities in the Suncoast League region. This would be the real world impacts of adding another exemption or increasing the homestead exemption, or this would be the real, and trying to dispel the, I think, erroneous idea that we can just make this up by cutting out all the fraud and waste, and talk about real world impacts, because like I said, I can't speak for the city yet because you haven't given me that authority, but in terms of the Suncoast League cities, the 33 cities that belong, I can talk about, look, you like the standing ovations thing at Treasure Island that brings in all these people every year? Well, that ain't going to happen. You like the 4th of July parade that happens in Safety Harbor? That ain't going to happen. And these are real world impacts. These are not just make-believe things. And so we have employees that we've tried to be generous to in raises. Two of our employee groups are unionized, so we have contractual obligations about what their raises will be. Our ad valorem taxes don't even pay for police and fire. We're $6 million in the hole, and we haven't paid for anything else. That's just police and fire.
Right.
So these are real numbers, and we don't, in my opinion, we just don't have, yeah, you find stuff. Could we, I don't know, stop having art or what? Yeah, I mean, there's always something we could cut, but not that much. So anyway, get off my soapbox here. But, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, I don't like taxes either. But what's the alternative to this?
Right.
So anyway, that's next meeting if you choose to adopt some. And that's all I have. Unless there's more new business, we'll move into the city manager's report.
You have your questions you want to ask me first? Or?
Well, no, go ahead and give your report.
Okay. So just to segue on from the last discussion here about the city's positions, I just want to be clear too that when we had the government affairs consultant here, it was very evident. I said it, like one of the biggest concerns we have is this property tax issue. As your CEO of your organization, It's $23 million for public safety alone, and we only collect 19 and change in terms of tax revenue to support that. So that's the marching orders that I've given the consultant. That is our biggest issue. I've not asked, from an administrative perspective, I've said, look, there's no appropriations we're seeking. It's really just to fend off what would be a debilitating impact financially. So I just want to make sure the council understands that I've had those conversations with the consultant about that. Just in terms of items, I just wanted to remind the council and the public that this Thursday morning, here in this room, in the chambers, we will have the Riverside Park workshop. It'll start at 9 a.m. The design team will be here to facilitate that workshop for us. And again, 9 a.m. this Thursday, January 8th, here in this room. And aside from that, I really don't have anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question for you has to do with the broken water lines south of Bullard. What caused that break?
Can I ask Mr. Warrenfelds to come up and address that issue?
The 4-inch pipe that broke for that water main is just, it's age infrastructure. So during the excavation process, we discovered that there was a previous repair on this line that was not documented in our mapping system. It did not fail at the previous fail. It was farther to the west is where it failed.
So it's just age
It's old.
that caught that. Okay. So then with the text message system, I know that there are rules about just pushing text messages out, but is this something that somebody has to be signed up to receive text messages, or can we just push them out when there's a boil water notice?
Sure. So to clarify here, the boil water notice we put out on social media and we put out on the website. The text message system is a subscription-based system. We do not have the county system that the county and the sheriff's office uses, public safety uses, is a system that's geofenced and allows them to send out like an Amber Alert type of notice. That is not something that we can use. The police department can use it with the acquiescence, I'm sure, of like the sheriff's office or FDLE perhaps, for certain specific public safety premises that we're not able to do that. So the system that we have is subscriber-based. I don't see Maria. Mary, do you? Oh, how many subscribers do we have?
Over 2,000.
So we have over 2,000 subscribers right now to it. We did send out the boil water eventually on the text-based system as well. And in fact, it's kind of interesting. Even though people subscribe to it, we had 4 people that came back and said we don't want this anymore. Even though this was an important message, we thought.
Yeah.
So but it is subscription-based, so it's based on what people want and are willing to receive.
So they need to, so the short answer is, people in the city need to subscribe. That's the only way that we can send that type of message out, as important as we know it is, through text.
Through text, correct, but I just want to make sure we still put things out on social media and Facebook and on the website. And so there's other avenues, but yes, if people want to get it through text, they need to subscribe and go on our website and do that from the, am I correct? Yeah. Do that.
Okay, so then, our water system. I know that the consultants have been looking at the comprehensive system in addition to the addition of looking at PFAS remediation. Is this, as they're looking at our system, are they basically analyzing what needs to be done to replace aging infrastructure, make sure that it's got the durability to move into the future?
I'd ask Mr. Warrenfelds to better address that. He's been working directly with them.
The request for a consultant to review the system is only the the 2 pump stations and the 2 water treatment plants. So CHA's focus is around those 4 facilities, and then we added the PFAS element to the end of that. So the citywide infrastructure is not part of their evaluation. Internally in the utility department, we've had these conversations based on this discovery. I spoke to our GIS tech about the analysis of what is in the ground, and there are certain components that he can pull from what we have and share with me. He has not done that yet. That was simply a conversation yesterday. So we, internally in utilities, we are looking at what we have and what we need to look at in the future.
Like, it's an excellent question in the sense that, and Mr. Warrenfeldt and I have talked about this multiple times. You know, we've in the past budgeted for like lining, $250,000 a year. I think we budgeted for lining of like sanitary sewer and things like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if during the next budget cycle, we come with you with a more robust program saying, you know, we have to identify, and that's the piece that I think we're trying to figure out. How do you identify it right now? Is it by a certain quadrant? Because even certain quadrants of the city, there might be developments that were built at different times, so it'd be different type of infrastructure. Right. So we have to work through that piece. But it's very likely we're going to have a capital plan that's a 5 to 10 year plan where we do a certain amount of, you know, pipe replacement, lining, et cetera, every year to try and keep ahead of these water main breaks. There are a fair number of breaks, and when they happen, our staff does a really good job, and the priority for the staff is to avoid a loss of pressure in the system, so we avoid inconveniencing our residents through boil water notices. That's priority. That's why if you've seen pictures from a year ago during the storm, you would have seen some of our staff in water up to their shoulders in a hole. And that's because the water was still on, but they're trying to fix it so because they'll turn the water off to, again, inconvenience the residents. So that's our priority. So we want to make sure that we keep the system working as well as we can. But we are going to continue to have these breaks. I mean, that's no doubt whatsoever. I mean, in every system will have this. If you have, you know, unless you're a brand new community, right, you're going to have this because infrastructure is put in different types and at different eras. So it's only a matter of time before something has to be changed.
So then my last question has to do with the PFAS remediation.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've said that we are going to get a report back from the consultant is that report going to have recommendations as in you could use this type of filter and maybe the consultant won't have this, but as part of our discussion, will we have the information that says, okay, you can use reverse osmosis, and this would be the anticipated cost of putting in the capacity for what we use, or 3 viable options with their potential cost, and then are we going to include the cost and the option of actually dropping our wells deeper?
Warrenfeldt, that more technical than I would be able to address.
What's that?
It's a little bit more technical question than I would be able to address.
So, engineering utilities had a meeting with CHA the end of last week to talk about how this report finalizes and gets completed. Those are some of the considerations. If you recall from the town hall meeting, the CHA had proposed, what if we add a new well? What if we add a new tank? There were what ifs if we go along this process. We're now narrowing those down to these are the recommendations based on the report, based off the data that they're finding, and we're getting to that point. The meeting last week was at a greater level than I would say that we've had at any of the meetings as far as the particular details. Now, these are not done details. These are details where as we're looking at the PFAS treatment, we're seeing the different variables of the different components that they have tested, but we don't have the final numbers yet because they're still testing. The small scale study at the water plant is still running. We're still doing the RSST at UCF. I mean, they're still in motion, but we're getting down to the granular pieces. I will say one of the pieces that they're looking at is our current, with the water plant study, the current process of bringing raw water in, treating it, and then putting it out to the public. We've concluded that there are pieces of this that may not need to be replaced, as there would have been a comment previously that said, maybe we need a new water plant. Maybe not. Maybe we just enhance them, which will capture both ends of this, where an enhancement may capture some PFAS details, plus also preserve the longevity of the plant. We're getting granular, we're getting there. So I would expect when the report's done, it's going to provide more light on what we should do and where we should go. Yes, there are components that are going to give you a small ballpark number of what it would cost. There's also in our scope where there are CHA was asked to look at grant opportunities and funding for us. So granular, we're getting down to coming, not to the end, but we're close. We're on the details.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Bayou? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Bayou. City Attorney's report. Nothing. Nothing. Okay, well, want to thank everybody for all your hard work during 2025, and look forward to working with everybody in 2026 and have a healthy year. We will be adjourned.